Welcome in, everybody. Day 2 of the 2026 NFL Draft is in the books, and got a special guest. He is a regular. If you're watching, obviously over on Couch Potato General Manager, you're seeing the stream over there. Figure we do a little co-stream here for the recap show. Juice is here from Couch Potato General Manager. We've done a couple of these things, the recap shows. We were on obviously on Wednesday. Really excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. I
Yeah.
appreciate this co-op, man. Looking forward to recapping day two. I'm so much more interested in day two as compared to day one, right? Typically day one, you kind of, even though you may not know the destinations from a player perspective, it's probably 80 to 90% of the players where they're going at some point, right, within that first day. But day two is always really intriguing, and certainly today was. So a lot to talk about.
There were some interesting things that went on. I'll say that on on Friday. I don't think there's any better place to start, honestly, because I just think Smitty and I were talking last night. I thought
Mhm.
they crushed it, and they hurt their longtime Super Bowl rival Pittsburgh in the process of doing so last night and tonight. I thought they landed at least one of my favorites. We just simply put it in here as the title. The Cowboys continue cooking. I mean, Caleb Downs, and then you end up with Malachi Lawrence in the move back, right? And then you go get tonight Jayshon Barham, who maybe not everybody's cup of tea, but he's one of my favorites in this class, and I think it's just maybe simply because he is just, I think, such a violent player. Just loves the
Mhm.
collisions, true psycho, honestly. And so I just love this. It's an incredible start. They pretty much added, I would say, America's guy in Caleb Downs, and then two of my guys. And I think they're recreating Micah Parsons in the aggregate right now. It's unbelievable to even think about that possibility. And here we are sitting there through 2 days.
Yeah, yeah, they've crowdsourced it very well, right? I come from a family of Cowboys fans. I'm reformed. I'm reformed. I have divorced myself of that. But certainly, I come from a family of Cowboys fans, and I was having a conversation with my dad, and we're watching round one, and I said, they can't mess this up. You're sitting there at 12. You're gonna have a shot at Bain or Downs. You can't mess this up, right? And then
Right.
they trade
Definitely
up.
not.
They trade up to ensure that they got their guy. And initially, I was taken a little bit aback by that, but then I thought about it. I said, you know what? You don't want to mess it up, right? If you
Yeah.
feel strongly about one or the other, you don't want to let another team, a la what happened with Pittsburgh and the Philadelphia syndrome. Albeit Pittsburgh they learned from their lesson here in day two.
Yeah.
They learned their lesson.
Yes, they did.
um they make the move to get Downs, whom is arguably the best player in this draft, right?
Yeah.
Setting aside this, I don't know. I guess when you talk about a player so glowingly for so long, you try to find things, you nitpick. He may not be an uber athletic, test out of the gym type. But let's find something to talk about him. But as buttoned up as they are, so you started off very well, and
Yeah.
then your guy Malachi Lawrence, right after the
Men-
trade
mentioned
down,
him mentioned him on Wednesday night. Thought that might be a
absolutely,
possibility.
absolutely, and of course there's a
Sick.
relationship there with the coaching staff, having had an opportunity, a position coach having an opportunity to coach him at UCF. He's ready to go from a pass rush perspective. There's no question
Yeah.
about it, and that's the name of the game here. That's what Dallas desperately needed. And then to your point, no second round pick, but you follow it up with Jayshon Barham, man, and just the intensity and physicality that he brings to the picture here, rounding out your pass rush. He could do the off ball thing, because I think that's an area that they need to address as well. But
Yeah.
certainly, I want him attacking. I want him attacking. They didn't rest on their laurels, right? As
No.
Araku last year, they added Rayshawn Gary. Obviously, you're very familiar with Rayshawn Gary.
Yeah.
And then through the first 2 days of the draft, you add Lawrence and Barham on top of a Caleb Downs. Like now, who's Who's in Jerry's ear? I assume it's Will McClay, but I've been so removed from
Yeah.
that their inner workings that I'm not sure. But he's getting some good counsel. I'll put it that way. They've really done a great job.
Stephen W92, what's going on? Yeah, he is. This is. I think they got a second round pick. If I'm going to be honest, I feel like they got one anyway, and they're set at 92. It's incredible stuff. And Ayers, I'm with you. It's a should be forbidden lethal draft. Luckily, it's not Philly, right? Philly didn't do this. Thank goodness. Otherwise, we'd be really beside ourselves. But yeah, I don't know if people labeling Malachi Lawrence as a toolsy player because of the athletic testing, and they were like, well, he must be because he tested like that. And really, his first step off the ball is not that great, but steps 2, 3, and 4 are ridiculous. And then the arsenal that he puts together, incredible stuff. If you get that first step better, I'd be terrified. I'd be absolutely terrified. Even the division about Lane and Jordan. I'm like, yeah, no, you guys better bring your best stuff for him. And I know Barham hasn't had a lot of time, playing edge rusher, right? I think 300 snaps this year, probably I think around 500 in total. But yeah, I think it's just, I think he's talked about as a psycho, and rightfully so. But I think the IQ, seeing things that are developing, at least in the run game between the tackles, the screen game looks good too, where he sniffs all that out. Like, as you said, when he's attacking and everything's in front of him, I think he sees it well, he goes and gets it, and when he gets to contact, it's just not going to be a very fun afternoon for his opponents.
Bad
intentions.
And so, bad intentions.
Yeah. And so I get it. If they're going to be in the 3-4 and they want him out there full time, like totally understand that. It's going to be a little bit of a process. His one move, right? And he's got some explosion power. He goes to that. But the one move is kind of that jab step inside and then try to rip around the corner. And it works sometimes, to be fair. But I do think, he might take a little bit more time if you're going to play him full time edge. If you're going to do Arvell Reese light stuff with him. Oh, now I'm even more intrigued, right? As you hone the pass rush skill anyway. It feels like Christian Parker. I mean, you've been handed the goods here. This is exactly what you want. Like, maybe you want another corner, but you got 112 and 114 tomorrow. Go see what you can get tomorrow. Maybe you go get a Demings, potentially, someone like that, or try and think who's still. I mean, I know. Listen. Clearly, the injury is a problem, and we're going to get there. But, I mean, tomorrow, you got 114 and 112. Might as well swing. See if he's healthy. See if he can be around. He didn't go tonight.
It's true.
If he is good, you've done it. You've done the near impossible. If he can play. Like, that is just unbelievable. If he can play.
It's true. I know this organization. One of the few things that I've heard coming out of Dallas throughout this process was that they were steering clear of any medical red flags. They were just avoiding it because Dallas has a long history of betting on the skill set traits, guys coming off of significant injuries, right, and being patient with them and giving them every opportunity to prove the organization right, and it just hasn't coalesced. It hasn't necessarily paid off. So with that being said, I think they definitely went into this thing saying, hey, listen, we're not doing any red shirt type of scenarios. I'm not suggesting McCoy is, but seemingly all 32 teams have passed him up over the course of 100 selections, right? So the reality is that whether it's he's not as far along his rehab as they think he should be, or they're concerned about something maybe degenerative, or just maybe his handling of the pre-draft process. Everybody has kind of checked out, but I agree with you. I might break my own rule at this point here going into day 3. That said, there are a lot of really intriguing defensive backs still on the board, right? And of course, McCoy being the most talented, but there are a ton. Whether it be a safety, whether it be a nickel type, a boundary type, a do-it-all type, it doesn't really matter. There's plenty of those players, and I've maintained that through the first 4 rounds or so, 4.5 rounds. I think there's a lot of depth, particularly on the defensive side of the ball in this class. I I think there's some intriguing names still out there at wideout. You know what I mean. You don't know what's going to happen long term with Pickens. You imagine it's
Yeah,
just kind of a one and done here.
could be.
You probably need to add a player here day 3 to help out that room as well. So they're in great shape. They're in great shape, and they could do some significant damage here with these these 3 fourth round selections here that I'm just looking at here on the screen. So yeah, I personally would roll the dice at this point. I'd roll the dice on McCoy at this point.
It's really hard not to. It's really
Yeah,
hard not to at this juncture. I totally understand. You have one day to pick. You want to make it count. I think they made it
sure.
count, without question. Honestly, I was a little down in the dumps about Green Bay. I'll be
I
perfectly
know, I
honest.
know, I know.
But I think that like just seeing Dallas like just really take control of a draft and say
Hmm.
we made this splash, but we're not done.
We're not
And
done yet.
I really like that a lot from them. And so I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow. We see all these, we've seen a lot of this, every year there's teams who obviously crush the first 2 days, and some of them mail it in, but very often you see the Eagles, the Ravens, teams like that still go, okay, we're searching for starters. We're going to get
Hmm.
every really good swing at the plate that we can. And I really cannot wait to see what Dallas has in store because, yeah, they got 112, 114, 137 in the fourth round. And so, yeah, of course, this evens out to a 7-pick class if they don't move at all. But I think, I think you come out, pretty well off if you find some DBs, right? And if there's something else you want to address tomorrow, you can. And so
Yeah,
I'm excited to see how this finishes for them. So
yeah, and considering the players that are on the board that remain on the board, you talked about it when we did our mock draft on Wednesday. Like, if you wanted to add, that one tech, that two gapper up
yeah,
front to add some depth behind Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark's getting longer in the tooth, right? You probably want to free Quentin Williams up a little bit more as a 5 tech 4 eye type in an odd man front, right? So and then of course 3 tech when you go 4 down or whatever the case may be. You could do that. You know what I'm saying? You have that flexibility. Like, as you mentioned, plenty of DBs out here to add to the mix, to add to that battery of defensive backs. Yeah, that Dallas through 3 rounds have done a great job. And of course you mentioned it comes out, it evens out to a 7 pick draft class as of right now, but that's
never
six
know.
picks in the first 137. That's six
Yeah,
picks in the first 137. And when you talk about this class, I think it's about, at least, they're outliers obviously, but from
yeah,
my perspective, there's about 150 players here that I think are going to be able to contribute in relatively short order. Maybe not as early
yeah.
as 2026, but certainly by 2027. So they've done a great job for sure.
Didn't think about this. Are they looking for that nickel apex defender?
I'm telling you, man. And there's tons of them. There's the
Keontae
slot
Scott didn't
demon.
go.
There's the slot demon, Keontae
He didn't
Scott.
go.
There's guys like Chandler Rivers available.
Yeah, who could
Keith
probably?
Abney is
Yeah,
out
Abney.
there.
That's right.
If
Wow.
if
Yeah.
you want a big slot, you got Jalen Kilgore out there. Like,
Yes.
there's a
Great
lot of
football
good football
IQ. Yeah.
players.
Oh man, you talk
Absolutely.
about the football IQ between Downs and Kilgore. That's some special stuff you got going on in that room.
Absolutely.
Get to some comments here as we're moving through this. Steven says this is CPGM. Yes, it is. Saying thank you for the Senior Bowl film and hope that you're well with you
You're
guys,
welcome.
which
Appreciate
is
it.
cool.
Appreciate it.
Yep, he also agrees. A lot of good corners, a few
For
solid
sure.
corners left. Ayers talking about neighbors describing Downs. He wasn't pleased that he's got to go against him a couple times, and I
Yeah.
can't wait for those matchups and a hopefully healthy Malik
Neighbors.
Neighbors. No question
Hmm.
about that.
Hmm.
Yep, Jalen Smith was another big one. Yep, with the medical flags, and Miles Jack was another one that he didn't slip as far as this, but he was
Hmm.
pushed out of the first, and it was a bad knee injury. So there is some of
Very
that.
bad.
Like
And,
it's
and, and
some of these are really bad. I know we got. I think we lucked out with Will Johnson. Seems like it so
mm,
far. We'll see. We're only 1
mhm,
year in, but it
mhm.
seems like he can play, which is great. But there are still some of these things where they just don't end up being able to.
I mean, you could see the struggles of Siobhan Revell coming off that
Yes.
injury, right? You know,
Yes.
he was in the conversation to be perhaps the first corner off the board, and then of course he has the injury there at ECU, and
Yep.
then he struggles. He struggles in his return. He figures to be part of the solution on the back end, but he
Yeah.
definitely struggled. So I think they're at a point right now. The amount of cap space that Dak commands, like you got to go now. You got to go
Yes.
now. You
Yeah.
can't wait on guys to round into shape. And even if you're not a complete player, which you don't expect of every single rookie, right? Downs, I think certainly, throw him into the deep end. But
Yeah.
even for Lawrence, as talented as he is, even for Lawrence, like there's going to be a learning curve, right? You're
For
making
sure.
that leap to the next level, but these guys
Especially
can
against the
contribute
run.
immediately.
But yeah.
Absolutely, but they can contribute immediately, and they certainly can affect the quarterback, which is what Dallas desperately needs to help that secondary, whatever that secondary ultimately looks like. But again, a lot of good football players still on the board here.
Yeah. For sure. Mason, what's going on, says they didn't do the thing we agree we didn't want. And I know that's talking about, I'm pretty sure that's Green Bay taking denied Dennis Sutton at 52, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Steven
He's
says
still on the
Skylar
board.
Bell, still a gem on the board. Elijah Surratt did not go tonight. Yeah, Kyle Lewis is a good shout there. And yeah, Cyrus Allen, a really good kind of maybe more throwback to the era that we've seen the last 11, 12 seasons of the more passing, try to make a defense cover every inch with that type of slot receiver for sure. Absolutely. And yeah, Abney, unbelievable that he's still
Alter.
there. I would like to officially formally apologize that Caleb Proctor is still on the board because I said he'd be gone by now. But yeah, so I guess I will apologize for that one. We'll see what happens tomorrow. They started taking
Another
nose
position group.
tackles. They started taking nose
They did.
tackles instead of the
They did.
DTs.
They
We have
did.
not
But you know
learned.
what?
We have
But
not
you know
learned a
what?
little.
That to me signals, obviously there are more teams in the NFL now than ever that are playing an odd man front,
Yeah, that's
in
true.
their base, right? One. And then two, the pendulum has swung back to downhill running, gap schemes. Everybody's grabbing a tight end so that they have a lead blocker. Everybody's grabbing a tight end.
Do we want to go there?
The fourth and
We can
fifth
go
tight
there.
end.
We can go there. It was a great transition, honestly, by you, Juice. That's exactly. I had it on the rundown, and I'm like, we got to go there. All right, it started, and as you said, it started. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No, you're fine. You're fine.
you could keep going about that. Like, I think not really Stowers. We expected Stowers
No.
to kind of be in that range of like teams are going to take advantage of the. I think probably
That's
a tier or
evil,
two.
by the way. This
It
is
is.
evil, by
I
the
will
way.
say, this is a good one to. We'll circle back on this because I have some thoughts about Philly that I don't know, but Nate Berkshire, the Jaguars with their first pick of the night, say we would like Nate Berkshire, please. And then the Texans said we would like Marlon Klein, please. Max Clare, maybe a little more, expected to go in a range like this. Even probably way back to summer
he's the
scouting.
fourth tight
But
end
yeah.
for the Rams now. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yes,
That's
yes,
maybe a little more different story there than maybe
sure.
some of the others. But Berkshire not going to start, I don't think. You still have Brenton
No.
Strange, right? And then obviously the Bears, which I think was maybe a little more reasonable. What was Sarah Roush at pick 69? But what do we think about this tight? And I guess Oscar Delp 73. I'll just keep going to the Saints. And then I believe Kasmerick goes to the Dolphins.
Kasmerick.
Yeah. And then I believe at pick 95, Eli Raritan goes to the Patriots. So yeah, thoughts on that? I didn't mean to interrupt. You could definitely keep going down the kind of train of like what this means and what teams are looking at this. But it was an interesting. I think you can go by maybe position, but which actually I'm going to do since we're talking about it. We're going through this new interface, people. I tell you, this is actually I think
good.
a lot better. So
Absolutely.
get a good look at it here. But
it's not totally unexpected, right? I vehemently disagree with it, but it's not totally unexpected. And the rationale that I've kind of settled on as it relates to, because this happens every year now, right? And from a depth perspective, it's a good class from a depth perspective, right? You're looking for the utility associated with the position. The tight end is an
Yeah.
extension of your offensive line. They can help out in the pass game. I mentioned lead blocking, H-back role.
Yes.
They're your personal protector, right? They're on every special team unit, right? You only have so many players that dress on game day. So
Yeah.
teams carry lots of tight ends because of the utility associated with them, because they play so many roles. And I think that's what this comes down to at the end of the day, right? I want to be able to be multiple. I'd like to get in my 12 personnel, my 13 when I'm in goal line. And of course, when I need to trot out my field goal unit, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of applications associated with the tight end. What you shouldn't expect, and I think most reasonable NFL fans, and this is part of why people kind of cringe at the idea of taking these tight ends so early, is that most of them aren't going to have big counting numbers in the passing game. They're not.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like there's typically a pecking order, and there's only a handful of tight ends that play a significant role in their offense's passing game. Think about it from the perspective of Buffalo, for example. Dalton Kincaid, excellent receiver, but because he doesn't do all of the things in line,
Yeah.
right? He's a bit capped, and you have some of that. You don't have a ton of complete tight ends. You have the Kasmeriks of the world who are very good inline blocking, but don't offer a ton in terms of the passing game, for example. You know what I mean? So it's the rationale that I have come to, what I've settled on with respect to why teams may reach or prioritize or draft their fourth tight end on day 2 of the draft, is because of how much they're leveraged on game day, right?
Yep.
It's like I love Claire. I would have liked Claire in Miami, right? Miami clearly had a needed tight end. I would have liked Claire in Miami because, again, he's one of those guys that are a bit more complete in nature. But the Rams, staying true to their board, I suppose. I don't know that the Rams have drafted anyone that's going to actually help them this year. And to some degree, it's understandable, right? They got a lot of expiring contracts over the next couple of seasons. But to me in particular, I would have liked a Mekhi Lemon at 13.
Sure.
Right? Sure. I would have liked to kind of just push us over the top. Okay, you think you're going to be picking late. You're not going to be able to have a shot at Arch, Moore, Mensa. You're not going to have an opportunity. You get your quarterback. Okay, fine. So you come back in the second and you go with tight end, who is going to be probably third at best on your depth chart.
Right.
That doesn't mean that he won't see the field in some capacity, but he's not going to play a role, a significant role in your passing offense, particularly when you have your top 2 receivers going into the last year of their deals, right? So it's Keegan Schross, okay, as early as 2027, maybe, right? But right now you got Alaric Jackson, you got Warren McClendon coming off a strong season. So it's interesting. The conversation around the tight end position is very much, there's so many different ways to deploy those guys. There's so many different use cases in a game, in an NFL game. That's why they carry so many. But I think sometimes the teams jump the shark with the tight ends, honestly.
Yeah, I think what it seemed like is, I think for sure that there's one that I think I really unfortunately do like. That,
it's the
like, and I think,
isn't it?
Yeah, it is, of course. Because I think they have now the plan to set up some 13 looks, and they can play off of it because they have the formation adjuster in Loveland who can stay on the line, but also is such a freaking talented receiver to be so sharp and smooth at the same time and run away from guys that now they can go. I mean, you saw it last year, like just some of the run concepts that they're throwing at teams, like when the stuff they threw at Philly on that Black Friday game, like where they just had them in a blender. And with 3 tight ends, I think Ben Johnson's looking over there at McVay and going, yeah, I like some of that. I think we found our guy here. And if Roush can mitigate some of the issues somehow with the lack of length, right? That's really the only thing that's going to maybe hold him back more than some of these other guys, just because striking some of these bigger, longer defensive ends isn't going to be as easy for him. But if you're going to be in 13 and you feel like you can protect him maybe a little bit more as we continue to work on, all right, if I'm super precise, I might be able to get more wins, and we're going to continue to work on that. And he's going to be going up against guys in practice who kind of have that build, right? Sweat, Odiyingbo, like guys like that are going to be good tests for him. And yet still you have playmaker and Burden. You know, you got Roma Dunze. Like you just mix and match. And I think that one is probably the one where I am most interested to see how that turns out, because it does seem like they're going to say, yeah, we're going to implement some 13 as well this season. Because, yeah, some of the others, Claire, we'll see. I was really intrigued by Claire because I think he has an interesting kind of path to the league now. He was super fluid and really just embraced the receiver role at Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ohio State said, we need you to bulk up. And I think the blocking got better, but I don't know if he quite kept everything that was so sharp, fleet of foot as a route runner because of it. And so that's going to be really interesting to me to see how that turns out. What if the Rams tell him, hey, drop the weight? Let's go back to be that guy. We've got 3 guys, and I think Ferguson can be joining that party of like, these guys can play in line. Our plan is to have all of them be able to do it. Whereas let's move you around the formation like maybe we would have a Mekhi Lemon from the slot and, let you guys, let you take advantage of some matchups there. But that one's going to be fascinating to me as well.
I think those are good points, right? So obviously McVay deployed his 13 personnel a season ago, using the entire bench, really.
Yeah.
Using the entire bench, the whole bullpen, as it relates to the tight end position. So I could see a scenario, to your point, where Ben Johnson says, you know what, I'd like to incorporate some of that. And it is a copycat league. It may go beyond some of the more renowned offensive minds in the league, and other teams are looking at it. They're trying to defend it, and they're like, you know what, we could probably leverage some of this as well. So it may be a trend, maybe a legitimate trend. The reason why I focused on kind of, I guess, wherever I've landed conceptually as it relates to why there always seems to be this run on tight ends early in the draft, sometimes guys that I'm not even very familiar with, right?
Yeah. I think Berkshire was probably a shock to the casual fans, right? Who are just kind of starting to tune in, and they're like, I have definitely not heard this guy's name.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I saw that comment on more than one occasion during the stream of day 2.
Sure.
And, I wasn't particularly familiar with him until I saw him out in Mobile, right? So with that being said, there may be something to the monkey see, monkey do type of deal here as it relates to what McVay pulled off. But I maintain that, the tight ends are used in so many different capacities. I think teams just have a tendency to carry a lot of them.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, the ways the league's going, they're probably going to get back to carrying more of be blunt, the real ones, the ones who actually play it. Is there another direction you want to go? Just winners that stood out, a certain team that really caught your eye? I know we started with Dallas. I feel like they've got to be the biggest winners right now, but where would you maybe go next?
I would actually go to the team that that's leaving me scratching my head, actually. So on the other end of the spectrum, Arizona. Yeah. Help me understand.
All right.
Help me understand the approach here. So, very much at the top of the second round, there were thoughts that Chase Bisontis would land on day 1. Okay, so I'm not surprised that he went early.
Yeah.
But are you kicking him out to tackle? Are you keeping him at guard? And then at the top of the third, this is a team that desperately needs pass rush. I'm not sure if you actually have a right tackle. DeSantis might be the right tackle. I'm not sure if you have that. You take Carson Beck, mind you. You see what's behind me, right? So I will not slander Carson Beck at all. You understand what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
he was the quarterback for the best Kane season in the last 20 years. So I won't slander Carson Beck, but from an analyst's perspective, I don't know what the medicals are suggesting, but the RPMs weren't there this past season, right? When he was asked
No.
to push the football down the field, that thing just hung up there. It just hung up there and gave every defensive back every opportunity to make a play on the ball. So I don't understand it. I don't really get it. Like my thought process is, okay, well, we're gonna get our guy next year. That we're gonna make a push to get our guy next year.
Yeah.
Why use a relatively early, midway through day 2 on a quarterback that, doesn't have the same arm talent that he did a couple seasons ago?
Yeah. I truly don't understand. As you said, you're asking who's playing right tackle.
hmm
Oh my
It's
gosh.
Elijah Wilkinson. It's Elijah Wilkinson right now.
Yeah. Who is listed as a guard on a lot of the websites. Oh my gosh. The guys who have the designations for tackle, obviously Paris Johnson,
hmm
Oli Udo, who was a,
I remember.
extreme project type, right?
Yep.
And Christian Jones, Demontre Jacobs, and Josh Fryer are your listed tackles in Arizona. And as you said, Elijah Wilkinson, I mean, probably going to have to be the guy who plays out there. That's not good. And again, you come back to the, and Smitty and I discussed this last night. It's like, what's the plan at 3 here? Like, why did we? Well, I know why. I mean, okay, that's a bad question. We know why they did it, right? We're not we're not sitting here going, oh no, why would they pick a guy who's their people want the jersey, right? Bidwell smiling in the green room. I wonder what the process was there, right? But to just not be, I don't know, maybe they weren't able to. I don't remember looking and seeing if Arizona was trying to move down or if they were just deciding. But if they weren't trying to move down, and even though I didn't like the top of this class at tackle, it's just very hard not to try to put everything together offensive line wise and build this team the way it needs to be when the quarterback steps in, when you have that luxury, right? Because at 3, there was nobody where you're going, oh man, I got to trip over myself, right? There's not a Drake May, right, after Caleb goes 1, or a Jaden Daniels where it's like, yeah, we'll figure out the rest of the team later. Let's go get the difference maker, right? Which is totally understandable. But they didn't have that. So now it turns into build this for the incoming guy that it's going to end up being. Because I just don't, as much as I think Beck has a good, baseline level of seeing like coverage rotations and knowing what that means and where to go with it. As you said, just driving the football is just not starting caliber at this point. And so it's hard to see the vision with that one, especially. I get that Drew's making good points down here of like, were their tackles worth it? Yeah, maybe Bell is the one. And then, Austin Barber, I think, was kind of another tackle that went in that range. But even still, then let's turn to the pass rush. Let's go get an edge rusher.
Correct.
Right? Where we need that in the room too. That's,
Correct.
Josh Sweat's obviously, really your guy there. You're not really getting much from Zaven Collins. You've tried it for quite some time now. Darius Robinson's still been more of the eat up space edge setter. Ojolari hasn't been healthy. Obviously, they brought in Jordan Birch last year, but that was more of a projection than a lot of like production. He had some opportunities here, and I just feel like I agree. It is confusing. It's an offensive load up. I just would have loved to see a tackle be a part of that offensive load up. Like, especially, if you're really like, which they really are, go outbid the Patriots for the last tackle that's remaining out there. Like, maybe go
That
outbid
makes more
them.
sense. That
Maybe
makes
go
more
outbid
sense to
them.
me.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, you got Jeremiah Love, and now you get the bookends. Okay, now you can convince me. Let's go get a center if we want one, right? Which there are still plenty of those guys left. And then build this out. Okay, we're not going to have the QB this year, but we're going to have Love, and we're going to have the line for next year when we grab the QB. Like it just
if
seems.
Froholt, Adams, aren't necessarily your guys long term,
Yeah,
I guess I can
Sayamalo,
get
I
on
guess.
board, right? But Salomalu is your prize free agent acquisition. Like that's the one
33.
guy,
Yeah, 33 too,
right?
on top of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know. I don't know if just the way their board fell. Like, okay, we gotta go with Basantis. We can't pass him up, right? Um, do you see any scenario where he's playing right tackle?
I think for his sake, I kind of hope not, because I think he's really good. The phone booth guy,
Mm-hmm.
recognition skill, communication, pass offs.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's just really good. Just sit him there. I hope they don't come out and say we're going to try him out there, and then it's like, well, now have you broken the confidence? Have you ruined a potential stalwart at guard for a long time?
Right. So to your point,
Yeah, Brandon, a good way to team actually selected Carson Beck. Thought that
so
was me. Was not.
to your point, you enter the draft right
Yeah.
with significant needs, clear needs on either side of the line of scrimmage, right? You lack pass rush. I think they were bottom three in terms of sacking the quarterback, right? Affecting the
Yep.
quarterback.
Yep.
You ultimately take Jeremiah Love. It's hard to argue with the talent, obviously,
Sure.
but you're not necessarily ready to add a running back, right? From a team perspective, you're not necessarily ready to add a running back top of the draft. They do it anyway. They move forward with anyway, right? Okay, so you miss out on Lomu. Maybe they did put in the call. Maybe they did put in the call and they were outbid or whatever the case may be. Somebody didn't answer their phone, whatever the case may be. You
Yeah.
saw the run. We talked about the tight ends. You saw the run at edge. We knew
Yeah.
that there was going to come a time where the edges, a very good class of edge rushers, were going to start to come off the board on day two, right? And you don't come away with anyone.
Yeah.
Collins is out the door next year. Obviously, they've been giving him every opportunity to become a legitimate pass rusher, and he hasn't done it. You mentioned Ojulari, a player that I liked quite a bit coming out. Can't
Yeah.
stay healthy. I think he's the final year of his deal. Like, so the cupboard is going to be bare, right? So now we're talking about going into 2027. You'll be in better shape cap wise. You'll be in better shape cap wise. That's one silver lining because you're dealing with the Kyler Murray fallout.
Yeah.
But you still need your guy. You still need your quarterback, I would imagine,
For
right?
sure.
Unless Brissett sets the world on fire, because I can't imagine it's going to be Carson Beck.
Wouldn't
Can't.
think so.
So I just don't see the vision. I don't see it.
I mean, there is a vision. It's just a very, very poor one from the tippy top of the the tippy top of the of the food chain in the room, because it does feel like a kid that, look at all these stars that I put together on Madden. Love, McBride, Harrison, perhaps if he gets there, Wilson.
These names.
And then it's like, okay, well, what'd you do in the trenches? And you're like, and then they answer, what's that? Like, I think that's kind of what this was. I get it. Basantis, that's fine. He has, I guess Drew said, played some right tackle, but it's,
if that's the plan, that's not a good plan.
it's not. And that's why I'm certain that it's coming from the tippy top of the of the ladder. So Snap Debate says, hi, all you guys happy with Jayshawn Barham? Are they going to use him as a linebacker or a pass rusher?
I think ultimately he'll play in both spots.
That's so fun.
I do want him.
I love that.
Coming forward. I do want him coming forward, but
so fun.
given their needs, Shamar James is an intriguing prospect at the inside linebacker position, young player, a lot of growth potential there. But given their needs, I think he will play a healthy dosage off ball and then get his opportunity to rush the passer. Blitz, green dog, and then send him off the edge as part of that rotation. So, very good player. Yeah,
it's interesting. I don't see running back on here for needs for Arizona. It's interesting. I see like O-line, edge, defensive line, linebacker. There were some pretty good guys at 3 available to handle some of those things.
You
Not sure.
you can't even say they were just being true to best player available. You can't even make that argument.
I don't think so.
You can't even make that argument.
Yeah, I
Beyond
really don't.
beyond the love selection, you can't make that argument.
Yeah.
So
All right. Do we go to a happier note? Do you want to stick on a team that was
yes.
a little more confusing, or would you want to go to a winner here?
No,
Want to
let's
go
go
to a
to a
winner?
winner.
All right.
Let's go to a
Who do we
winner.
got? What do you got on the?
I I'm gonna go to the NFC North. You might not want to hear this, but I like what Minnesota has done.
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
sneakily, right?
Yep. Hmm.
I really like what they've done. You know,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
not glitzy,
No.
it's not sexy,
No.
but it looks pretty damn effective, particularly if you can keep that first fella healthy.
Yes.
If he
Yes.
stays healthy, and I listen, I was taken aback by the fact that they doubled down, and maybe that's them hedging a little bit. Maybe that's them hedging
Perhaps.
a little bit.
Perhaps.
You can stick Big Citrus at the one and let Caleb move around a little bit. You already
Yeah.
have Jalen Redmond there. You don't necessarily have to subject Caleb to a ton of those double teams, right? You can let him use
Right.
that athleticism that he
Yes.
possesses, at that rare size. You know what I mean? I thought to myself, because I was working through mock drafts and whatnot, that they could probably stand to address off-ball linebacker, right? With
Yep.
Cashman going into his final year. Wilson earned an extension, but he's an older player as well.
Yeah.
So Galladay makes a ton of sense to me. You struggle to keep your offensive lineman upright. Yeah, I probably I think it would have made more sense to go with Tiernan, the top of the third, right?
Perhaps.
To
Yeah.
Arizona. That probably would have made more sense. So I'm very, very comfortable with him there at the end of
Sure.
the third. And then, they needed to address the safety position. And, I'm very familiar with Thomas's game. I think he's certainly not Harrison Smith. This
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't say that. I think he's a different type of player, but he's a good one. He's a good one. You know what I'm saying? So I really like what the Vikings have done. And I think there are other teams that probably, are going to get more adulation. The Jets, of course. I think the Browns have
Sure.
done really good work. But I think sneakily the Vikings have had a solid couple days here in the draft.
Yeah. I think the only thing like that would maybe be because I mean you tried Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. You
Mhm.
brought them both in. Nope.
Mhm.
Okay, we're not pressing for the for a championship. Okay, let them go. Let's get
Mhm.
younger. And obviously
Yep.
Banks is 23, and so this isn't maybe the youngest pair you could have gotten in the draft, but it's still a really complementary duo, as you mentioned, right? Like
Rookie
Dominic Orange
contracts.
just can't really get after it rushing the passer, but it's at
No.
82, right? That's why you swing, which to me I think was kind of the first. It felt like as a defensive tackle philosophy, we were going there. We're like, okay, they took Banks. That's the swing. That's the
Mhm.
athleticism swing. And then Peter Woods went, which wasn't maybe my favorite,
Mhm.
but it was still like, okay, that's still an athleticism bet. That's a guy who's moved to 3 tech. And then the rest of it, day 2 is kind of like, nah, we're going to
Me.
avoid some of the upfield burst guys, which I get it. Like McDonald, I'm not even including kind of McDonald and Miller into the conversation. I think they were very
Sure.
clearly ahead of everybody else. You could maybe say Lee Hunter's maybe either in the next group by himself or with that group. I think you could go either way with me on that one. But then it
Mhm.
just kind of turned into kind of a mess. But long-winded to get back to Minnesota. Golday, yes, athleticism off the charts, size to play true linebacker now that Cincinnati doesn't. Now he doesn't have to play overhang anymore at Cincinnati. Tiernan, at the very least, good backup who can pass protect. That's name of the game. And I know he isn't maybe the best tackler, but I think a lot like some of these other safeties in this class, he sees the field really well.
It does.
He sees the
He
field
does.
well. And I think I think credit to him. Kind of an unsung kind of guy who might shut some windows that you might not see on the broadcast. And you may go, why did the rush get home here? Might be because he was shutting some windows that you can't really see on ESPN. So
Yeah. You need that wide angle view.
Yeah.
5 INTs. 5 INTs. He was a big part. And And I think he brought some legitimate energy, right? Like
Yeah.
you mentioned, he's not the most sound tackler, but he's a striker, right?
Yeah.
He gets the team juiced up. He's a leader on the back end. You know what I mean? I think there's some intangibles on top of his physical tools and his playmaking ability, and as you mentioned, his ability to see the field, see things developing, make a
Yeah.
play. I like the addition. I like the addition. I think a lot of various publications were significantly lower on Thomas, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it here at the
Yeah.
end of the third. I think the only thing here is I was calling, I was calling for Jonah Coleman, right?
Yes. Sure.
I was,
I figured at least at this point.
right,
Yeah.
Mike Washington, if you're so
Yeah.
inclined, if you want the speed, but you know, I think there's some veteran backs that are still available as things shake out, and of course we got day 3, so we'll see how that
Yeah.
works. But I think the Vikings have done a good job right now, and I
Yeah.
actually really like the idea of not necessarily sticking Banks over the center at the nose.
Yes.
I think I
Completely agree.
think he can be more effective. Obviously, when you go 4 down line and obvious passing situation, be a 3 technique, be a guy who can get up field at his size,
Sure.
but in base 4 eye 5 tech, opposite Jalen Redmond. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that they have a chance of keeping him healthy that way.
Yeah. Doesn't get into those big time double team collisions
Correct.
as much, which can
Correct.
be a definite longevity play. Chris, I will get to the question about Cisse. We will 100% get there. I promise. I started. I want to throw my hat in the ring for bounce back of the day.
Hmm.
Seattle.
Okay.
Bounce back of the
Okay.
day. They took a
Okay.
running back, didn't like what we're doing there. Wasn't really
I
on board with
I
the
felt the
idea.
same way.
But John Schneider, I knew you feel. Last on Thursday going through putting all the graphics together. I'm like, should I put Jared Darian Price in the grouping? I'm like, yeah, I think so because Schneider might not be able to help himself, and he didn't.
Sure.
He couldn't help himself. But now it's like we lost Woolen, we lost Kobe Bryant. Let's go get Bud Clark. How about that?
Mm. Mm.
Juice.
I love
I
it.
guess technically, no, he went. Did he go
He
before?
went before
No,
Halsey. He went
he
before
went before
Halsey.
Halsey. Did he go before
Mhm.
McNeil Warren, or did Cleveland get him at like
I think
59?
Cleveland got him just a few picks ahead.
Okay, so he was technically, I guess, fifth, but again, pretty close on
Mhm.
the NFL up. Maybe he isn't. Maybe he isn't fifth. I don't know what the Raiders are going to do with Stukes. We can get there at some point as well, but
That's a good question. Yeah,
yeah,
not sure
that's
there.
something we'll have to think about that one. But yeah, I mean, Bud Clark talked about Juice talked about him a lot on Wednesday night on Draft Miss Eve, like just the way he is always around the football, physical, just wants to compete. Sounds like a guy McDonald was
Mhm.
clearly in the rooms going, "Hey, this guy, you showed me some of his film. I want him."
Mhm.
Maybe saw him at the Senior Bowl doing stuff where it's like he's not favored to win any of these matchups with all the grass you can use to your advantage, and he
Mhm.
just keeps winning. Love that. I think this is maybe a best case scenario for Julian Neal.
Mm.
A lot of everything in front of you, but you can
Mhm.
get up and play physical at times, which he's really good at. He can turn and run. It's more about the quick transition stuff with Neal that you're maybe
Yes.
questioning, but he's still
Yeah.
somebody who can find the ball. I do think this is one of the better spots for him. You land in a place where they're very intentional about coaching up DBs. So
Yeah.
I really like how they backfilled the secondary here after getting a little bit maybe punch drunk about the about the Super Bowl title and say, you know what, let's go chase some flash early.
Right.
I think it was back to business, sensible stuff on Friday for Seattle.
And they managed to work in a trade down to add an additional pick along the
Yeah.
way. So they entered the draft with just 4 selections. I'm with you. I think they did bounce back. I wasn't a huge fan of the decision. It's you take a step back though. When you take a step back and
Yeah.
you look at it through the prism of, okay, what do I currently have on the roster? Um, you know, Charbonnet, obviously not incredibly explosive as it is, but now he's coming off of an injury on top of
Yes.
that.
Yes.
If Price is the second ranked running back. I don't love it at 32, but relatively speaking, I suppose. I suppose you
Yeah.
want to ensure that you get him. You don't think he's going to be there at 64. You don't have the draft capital to get aggressive.
Yeah.
I can rationalize it. I don't agree with it, but I can rationalize it, right?
Yeah.
Bud Clark, you know how I feel about him.
Yes.
You know how I feel about
You
Bud
may
Clark. Like,
you could do it. You could go on as long
listen,
of a soliloquy as you'd like to about Bud
listen,
Clark. Go for it.
listen, man. I think Clark. I've said it before. It was Downs, obviously, right? He's the standard.
Yeah.
Finneman, McNeil, Warren, and
We're out
then
of
Bud
time
Clark.
about we're out of time about Thieneman. We're out of time.
So we're not talking about Finneman no more. And that NFC North, man. Anyway, I mean,
Man.
Bud Clark to me, like the only two things. There's two things that you could probably knock Bud Clark for. Knock Bud Clark is he's not the biggest, right? And he's an older
Yeah.
prospect.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Good news. Seattle's in the window, which is
Exactly.
a team who can do this,
Exactly.
right? If it's Arizona or a Jets,
No,
it's like,
probably
okay,
not.
not doing that.
Probably
like
not.
Chargers going Mesidor. Okay, that's
Yes.
fine. When you're healthy, you're a
Yes.
contender. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Seattle's in that boat, 100%.
Correct. Correct. That we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good
Yeah,
time. That's
exactly.
the attitude.
Exactly. Drew, we don't have to be saying things like Thieneman was the best value in round one. All right. We don't have to be saying things like that. We covered that. We covered some of that last night. Oh no, we didn't because I said we're not going to, but it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I did really like this. Any direction you want to go? We could go a single pick that maybe, you really liked, or just you want to keep going the teams. We can do the teams.
We got to go to the Jets. We got to go to the Jets.
Okay.
And we got to talk about our guy. Right?
Yes.
You know, would have been perfectly fine with Pons at the top of the second. They managed to move up, get Cooper. Okay, so you pass on Lemon, right? You opt for Sadiq. Okay. All right. Interesting. But again, the utility and clearly he's the class among the tight ends, right? Nobody offers that type of athleticism and the willingness to block like Sadiq does. Okay, you managed to get the receiver to kind of augment that room. You managed to make that happen.
Yeah.
And then teams overthink it. They overthink it. And I noticed the nickels are being pushed down, although I don't consider Pons as a nickel, right? He clearly can play outside the numbers, but there's a tendency to have the smaller corners move inside. The thing about it is that you got to be physical to play nickel.
Yes.
Right? Like Avian Terrell to me slides a bit because of his size, right? That's the reason why he slid.
And a little bit of lack of willingness. I think
exactly. Yeah. If he's
Yeah.
more physical, I think he probably gets the nod because he can play on the boundary. He has the coverage skills to play on the boundary. Of course, he gets to play with his brother, which is pretty cool. But
that's a really cool story absolutely.
We talked about it. We talked about Aaron Glenn, and he's gonna have an affinity for D'Angelo Pons. He was a smaller corner that played bigger than his size, played at a very high level for a long time. That's what I expect from D'Angelo Pons. That's what I expect from him. I love the fact that it all came together.
He's gonna get, it didn't dawn on me until just now, honestly, that when we talked about Pons, it was kind of really the biggest thing of like, hey, when you do the catch technique stuff against these bigger guys, it's probably not going to go well, right? The flat feet trying to catch him. Jeremiah Smith got him once. Just realize if the schedule comes out in a little bit and we see Patriots Jets week 1, that's going to be AJ Brown most likely. Cannot wait. Get the popcorn ready. He will not back down. He will not. I think this is my favorite pick for the Jets.
Yeah.
By far. Value-wise.
I hear you.
I get what they're chasing with Bailey. I think that's totally fine. You chasing the guy who maybe the guy you're concerned about the outlier, and then you're also concerned about a guy who hasn't really been a pass rusher yet. You want the true pass rusher, totally fine. Sadiq, I think a good point by Drew. You get Mason Taylor as your inline player who really doesn't offer you much after the catch in terms of making anyone miss. Now you've got the make you miss. and I think Cooper can play on the boundary with this
Mm,
group. I think he can handle it, because otherwise, if he can't, you
mm.
kind of got a weird, tricky little situation with these two in Cooper and Sadiq about how do you manage that? We don't want to put
Sure.
ourselves into a Shakir, Kincaid, Coleman, everybody
I
can
hear you.
only play right here type of
I hear
situation.
what
I
you're
think
saying.
Cooper can hang because he won't be the one. Wilson takes care of that for you.
Sure. Sure.
And again, maybe you bring Sadiq along so Cooper does get some slot looks early because you have Mitchell and maybe you think Mitchell can do something. Maybe you don't. Maybe I'm the only one on that island. That's fine. I'll still hang there.
No, no,
But I think
I'm hanging in too. I'm hanging in too with Mitchell. I'm
I
hanging
think
in too.
that, man, there's going to be a lot of options for Gino to sling the ball around. My goodness. Like, don't forget about Brees Hall, the receiver, either, like out of the backfield. Like, this is going to be a tremendous group. And so I think Bailey Pons, when you put that duo together of like, what did the Jets not have? Didn't have, no slight to Will McDonald, but they didn't have a
Sure.
guy who could just get up and go after the QB with that speed. And they didn't have a guy who can produce turnovers, play tough, match anybody with the athleticism. So yeah, maybe isn't my favorite because of maybe if they were going to ask Sadiq to do try to do everything, then I would be a little concerned. But I think Drew reminding me Mason Taylor's there, I think eases that a little bit, and it shows that
Hmm.
they really got a good stable of playmakers, and they hopefully, for their sake, got two cornerstones on defense,
Yeah.
which
I
is what you got to do.
the David Bailey conversation, and I won't belabor the point long. It almost reminds me a little of the Aiden Hutchinson conversation,
Could be. That's true.
right? I think what you're not getting, at least out of the gate, because Bailey seems to understand that he has to improve his run defense. He has to be a more well-rounded player. If he's harassing the quarterback, if he's
Yes.
among the top 10, 5, out the gate in terms of pressures, hurries, then it is absolutely worth it. It's
Yeah, it's
it's
wraps.
absolutely
Yeah.
worth it. You know what
Discussion's
I
done.
mean?
Yeah,
The discussion
100%.
is done at that point, right?
Yep.
So the fact that he's demonstrated, whether it be at Stanford and most recently obviously at Texas Tech, that he can get after the quarterback. If he's able to translate to the next level, then all of that goes out the window. All of the
Yep.
conversation around whether or not you should have taken perhaps the more um, physical or more complete player in Reese, or Bain, who is an animal. I don't know how Miami screwed the pooch. Anyway, um,
Yeah.
I think it just kind of reminds me of some of the concerns folks had with respect to Aiden Hutchinson. Um, and maybe not an apples to apples comparison, but I do
Sure.
see some similarities in terms of the concerns. But once people saw Hutchinson, put offensive tackles in a blender week in and week out, they were like, okay,
Done.
all right,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yep. 100%. And so I think, yeah, when you take a step back and maybe don't let the emotion and the excitement and your rankings really just, let you loose on a
Mhm.
draft. I think you look back and go, okay, this is what they need to do. Granted, obviously you have four top 50 picks, so
You gotta
that's
make it. You gotta
certainly
make
the
it count.
expectation. But not everybody
Exactly.
makes it count,
No,
and so
no,
this
they
feels
don't.
like a good chance to do so, for sure. So yeah,
Indeed.
I think it's a good call. Do you have another direction you'd like to go? Team
I just want
pairing,
to take a quick peek at Cleveland's class to this point.
sure. Yeah, this interface is so much better than it used to be.
Oh yes.
So
Oh
much
yeah.
better. If you haven't checked it out, people, you definitely need to.
I think those first three picks, and to be able to steal McNeil Warren at
Yeah, I'm
58,
not sure how the heck that happened. I'm not
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I think this went about as good as you could expect. So I anticipated some combination of tackle, receiver, receiver, whether it be receiver, tackle, receiver. Um, in this case, tackle, receiver, receiver. I expected them to double up in terms of that room. They seemingly are building it like a basketball team. I think, 39, 40 is probably the range that I would consider Denzel Boston at that point.
Sure.
Concepcion, of course, got to clean up the technique in terms of catching the football, but he separates like none
Yep.
other in this particular class. Fano's going to get every opportunity to play tackle. I'm not convinced that's where he'll live, but he will get every opportunity to do so.
Yep.
I was having a conversation with Helly. He said, I'm still hating. He said, I'm still hating on Fano. But
I get it.
I know what he's going to mean to that running game. I do know what he's going to mean to the running game in Quinshon Judkins. I like the thought process behind Austin Barber. I don't know that I love Barber per se, but I like the thought process, right? He has some traits that are really intriguing, some movement skills that are really intriguing. He just doesn't have the functional strength, but he's not going to be thrust into immediate playing time, right? He's going to get an opportunity, hopefully, assuming everybody stays healthy, opportunity to develop. So I like the thought process there. Long term, he could factor in at one of those tackle positions for you. So I think Cleveland, between what they've done in free agency and certainly through the first 2 days of the draft, have done a good job. They just need some consistency from that quarterback now.
Yep, they really do, and yeah, I think this is Arizona. If you need like a little assistance at how the process might need to look to kind of build the house for the QB, I think this is exactly the way to do it, right? You get exactly what you need, and I know Cleveland's needs weren't maybe quite the same. Right, they weren't looking as heavily among the front seven, perhaps, as Arizona was, and maybe they could have looked at corner, but corner left some intriguing options tomorrow. Maybe they want to sell the farm with 4 fifth-round picks to go get somebody. They can go get someone tomorrow, but I think this is the way to build the house. If the Watson Sanders type of thing doesn't work for you, you're in the position now to have built all of this up. Now we can go get our QB. And it really is just that simple. Arizona just needed to look. This is what Arizona should have looked like in some capacity of like addressing what we have to address. Perfect. We get the foundation. No question. So
absolutely. Absolutely. I think none of these organizations are created equal, right?
Sure.
The front offices, the Trinity, right? The coach, GM, ownership, ownership not meddling, so on and so forth, and who has the finger on the red button. So I've been impressed. I've been impressed by how Cleveland has approached this offseason. They're off to a good start here in the draft.
Yeah, I think that again the biggest question mark that I would have to this point is, as you mentioned, whether Fano can hack it. If he can't, it's going to look tough because there's a chance. But again, I don't know. Would they have been comfortable Blake Miller moving to the left side? Would they have been comfortable swing on Ihanacho at 9? I don't know. They probably would have had to. I mean, maybe do you just take Concepcion at 9 and you try to move up for Ihanacho? Maybe that's the move. But again, I think that I think they built it the right way. I don't think
agree.
You don't wait around for tackle, right? Even if the tackle class isn't perceived the way that you'd like it to be, right? Like I know that the Giants love Neighbors and they should love Neighbors. The Chargers got Alt and then they went and got McConkey. And I'm not saying Fano is Alt. I don't think he'll ever be Alt, but they did it the right order.
Yes.
Because the run started and teams didn't want the receivers slid, and you probably got a guy you would have been really, really comfortable with even after another trade down from 9. So,
yeah.
We got a resident Clevelander not liking the approach, which is interesting. I don't know if it's maybe just the players instead of the positions. That maybe could be the case. But hey, you can vent. No no judgment here. No judgment here. Should we talk about Philly?
Yeah, I guess obligatory.
Because I think this is like there is one thing that's nagging at me with this draft where I'm not maybe totally in the camp of they've done it again.
Okay, let's hear it.
So the thing for me is, even though as somebody who just I think is loves the idea of what Lemon can be,
Hmm.
continued growth with the release work. If he gets quicker and plays more on his toes, I think he can reach JSN's level of sharpness, right? But the question is, if he doesn't and he's limited to slot only for his career, are we looking at a Shakir Kincaid situation with your first two picks here? Of like they both play the same position. We can't have them both out there. That's maybe the one thing where it feels like maybe there is a chance we look back and say this was a redundancy,
Hmm.
and maybe as a team, and again, I know there technically this draft contains Grenard in it.
Right.
Right? They traded
Right.
for him and they gave him
Yep.
a big deal, and so complaining about
Uh-huh.
them not getting edge, no, they actually filled this.
Check that box. Yep.
So and they got O line. So maybe not taking advantage of the safety class with maybe McNeil Warren hanging and chilling in the 50s right there is maybe the nitpick. But I think that's maybe
Hmm.
the really only thing where I look back and go, okay, if Lemon hits his absolute floor and doesn't really pan out perfectly, you get a Khalil Shakir type and you have your Kincaid, and it's like the Bills where it's like, we'd love to have both these guys on the field, but we simply can't. And it turns into that level of redundancy that you may not want to see. But
I think Howie has I'm apparently on a first name basis with him. Roseman has a tendency apparently to whatever the perceived need is, go after it aggressively,
yeah,
right? That's where you end up with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, right?
yeah,
It's
it's
played
true.
out on multiple instances, right? Whether it be edge, what have you. I thought they had to come out of this thing with an edge. I thought, just the conversations around,
Yeah,
them thinking long term at tackle and what they would do at 23. Of course, they moved up. I thought to myself, why aren't we having a conversation around edge? Well, they already had a plan
yeah,
associated with that, so they
yeah,
were able to take care of that. They're trying to mitigate the incoming loss of AJ Brown, clearly, right?
yeah, for sure,
So Hollywood Brown, Dontavian Wicks, you add Makai Lemon. They do what they do. Roseman does what he does in
for
terms
sure,
of doubling down.
for
So
sure.
if Lemon doesn't pan out, right?
Yeah,
Let's say he face plants altogether, not just
yeah,
relegated to the slot. He face plants altogether. We got Stowers, right?
yeah,
There's also the
for
specter
sure.
of Dallas Goddard, perhaps his last season in Philadelphia. He just re-upped on a 1 year deal, right? That seemed more out of desperation than actual true desire to get that done. So I I think I think it's a good problem to have, right? Like if Lemon doesn't get
Certainly.
to that point, I think he can be a dynamo in the slot. Perhaps Stowers, because of that possibility, isn't able to really spread his wings and take advantage of the seams or what have you. I think Howie will take that on the chin and keep it moving. But
Yeah,
there's a redund. I think the redundancy is by design.
that
Frankly,
could be.
I,
That's
I,
a good
I think
point.
it's by
That's a
design.
good point. Yeah, that's very fair. And again, I one of the biggest fans of Lemon out there, and it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to to watch
The
him
Rams should have picked
probably
him.
succeed, and
Mm,
in
mhm,
Philly,
mhm.
it's really tough. It's even worse when probably my favorite player before I scouted Malik Neighbors, Devontae Smith, ends up an Eagle as well. So it's good. It's watching Smith and Lemon leaves the sour taste of like, man, I have to watch these guys on a team I just don't enjoy seeing succeed. But it is what it is. It should be fun. I'm excited for what it seems like Smitty to get a chance to be the one,
To be the one,
which I
right?
think
Yeah,
he is
capable
definitely
of it.
played well enough to earn,
Yeah,
and he would be a
capable of
lot
it.
of places in this
Hmm.
league.
Hmm.
Um, is there another direction? I know we were thinking an hour, but we were, you know, that's it's a fun
90
goal.
minutes,
It's a fun goal.
60 to 90.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a fun
60 to
goal to
90.
have, but
I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't give you the opportunity, since we're doing this dual
I guess.
stream to speak to the audience that I have, regarding Green Bay
All right.
and your thoughts to how they approach things.
Yeah. So I didn't have a fun time with this tonight, to be honest. I get it. I think I think if, McCoy's got that injury, it clearly, doesn't go at all tonight, then it's like you can't sit in that room if you're not in there and you don't see the reports to say you can just take McCoy and not worry about it.
Right.
I think they tried to do the like whole best of both worlds thing with McClellan. I think that's the goal there. I just don't know if they're going to get that level of return. Because one, I don't think those players would stay on the board till 77, right? I just don't think you'd see that. So I didn't love that. Obviously, would have rather chased Proctor there or Halton. Probably more Proctor than Halton in that regard. I don't remember. Did Zune go before? I think Zune went after, if I'm not mistaken. Not to have us jump around, but I want to make sure that the take makes sense. Okay, yeah, he did. He went a lot later. Zune, okay. Yeah. This is a tough duo here. These two passing there hurts. I think Neal could have been the third round pick perhaps. And again, you keep chasing that at 52. To me, it's unfortunately what they do with Cisse, regarding Cisse at least. This is 20 years old, not 21 yet. I don't think has really much figured out in terms of how to cover guys right now. I just really don't think he has it figured out at all. But my hope then is that they don't throw him to the Wolves week 1, which might frustrate some people, but I just don't know if he's ready for that week 1. And I think that, as much as we were frustrated with Golden not getting a lot of playing time last season, I think there were very clear moments when he had playing time that the spacing and the timing that he was playing with was off. And so it just took him some time. And I think you saw it in the Chicago game. I think Cisse is going to have to be, you're going to have to be patient. You may not see him as much as you want to see him this year, because I just don't think he's as ready as some of the guys who kind of went, in and around this area at that position. I think it's a long play for them, which is not uncommon. But my only concern is having that long play when you feel like you're in a window right now to go take something. And I think my biggest concern is seeing a lot of those guys that I was looking at in the Zunes and the Dunkers and the Pregnons, after the year that the offensive line had, I just really didn't like the idea of leaving day 2 without just something to kind of lift this thing and put competition in the air, because Banks didn't play well. Belton did not play well as a rookie at all. And I know it's like, well, he's a rookie. Yeah, but he's, I think, 25 this year. And you kind of want to start, you would like to start seeing some stuff for sure this season. So maybe it all works out that way. They got Ryan playing center full time. It just felt like a good time in this particular class to, find a guy who's tackled the guard conversion. I feel like there were a lot of opportunities to do so, and they just didn't feel like going in that direction. So I guess it was a little upsetting maybe in the moment because I didn't get the guys that I wanted, which, that happens. Just for one of us this year. But but I think it's clearly trying to address needs, right? McClellan and Hargrave, you're trying to get something out of that so you can you can commit more to coverage as a whole. So it's fine. I just think the Cisse thing with the window that you're in right now to go contend is a tough one that you're going to have to stay patient with, and And I think that's going to get people a little more frustrated. Because I think if you want the best out of Cisse, just don't turn the A&M game on. Don't do that. Don't torture yourself with that one. He did to be fair, Concepcion did it to pretty much everybody, but that one's pretty brutal. So
Yeah, I think that's all very fair. To your point, you're within a window, right?
yeah,
So this is my first pick in the draft. We have clear need. There are players on the board that can help me more readily, and you pass up on them, chasing the upside, chasing the potential. The player himself, I think. I mean, he's buttery smooth. He's buttery smooth when he kind of keeps his weight distributed, and he's patient in his back pedal. So I get the allure. I get the allure. I understand why there was some buzz early on in the process about him being perhaps at the back end of the first round, because again, he's a young player and there seems to be a lot of potential there, a lot of ability there. But yes, very much frustrating when you are in a window. You have a clearly defined need, which again, that's the way they drafted. They made these two selections. I have a feeling. Chris McClellan will be a bit more. Will contribute at a higher level this year. I didn't expect him at this point. I thought maybe at the third, fourth round turn.
I was thinking 120 was a good spot, and that's where we had continued to, I think, throughout the process, say, okay, he's probably going to be an option at this spot.
Yeah.
To trade up and give up a fifth. But obviously, very clearly, you watched the third round, and right after that pick went down, there's a couple more defensive tackles coming off the board. So they thought, okay, we're not going to wait for this run to start. We're going to start it ourselves.
Yeah.
Which with that extra pick, I get it. I get that, especially if that's your guy and you want to go get him.
Correct.
So
correct. And I think certainly the offensive line, your guy Dunker was out there for quite a bit as well.
He was out there for a while.
He was out there for a bit. I think we're going to see Green Bay address these two positions again here on.
Corner for sure. Yeah, I completely agree.
And the next guy that they select at corner probably will contribute more readily than Cisse if they're smart. But that's part of where the frustration is derived from, right? It's okay. All right, we use our quote unquote premium pick here in this class, on a player that we probably can't roll out there immediately. Can't depend on him readily. Need to give him time, and you're in the midst of a window. You're smack that in it. You made the Parsons trade. The Parsons trade is indicative of we got to go now.
Yeah,
we got to make this happen now. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's definitely frustrating. I to your point, the fan base, their patience will wear thin. Their patience will wear thin, but you don't want to send him out there before he's ready. You don't.
Definitely
it'll crush his confidence. It'll crush his confidence, and at that position, you got to be confident. There's no mistake about it.
This is interesting. Drew says during the press conference they think that Cisse could play inside or out. I'm not sure I'd be messing around with that, to be honest. I would just, again, as I think you mentioned, a more smooth and twitchy player right now. I don't know if I would want him doing some of the stuff in the slot at this point in time. I want to get to this starred comment because it was there. Edgar Diaz, shout out to you. You get a big time mention on this one for saying that you said that Avion Terrell was going to fall, but also saying the Packers should have used that fifth to go get Terrell instead of McClellan, which I think is a fair take. Avion Terrell probably a more ready-made. It's zone heavy with a lot of match stuff that Gannon's probably going to run, and I think that's a fair. It's a fair thing, and yes, shout out to you saying Terrell would fall. He fell to 48 to the Falcons. It's a good call by you. It's a good call.
And of course he doesn't meet those measurable thresholds, right?
Yeah, that's a little bit smaller for sure.
Yeah, he's a little bit smaller, but like I said, I think there are there are a number of corners that I'm sure they'll, like you said, they'll select on day 3 that will probably make, like, for instance, again,
I was
not a
looking
bigger
down the
player.
list too. Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah,
you.
yeah. My guy, his name's escaping me, from Duke.
Yeah, Chandler
Um,
Rivers. Sure.
Chandler Rivers, to me, can play on the boundary, but certainly will make for a fine nickel in this league.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we talked about it at the very beginning. The nickels seem to get pushed down the board in this particular draft. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see if they can clean it up a little bit here on day 3.
Yeah. Yeah, and Drew, good point. No backup nickel, could go after it tomorrow. Keontae Scott's still sitting out there. As I kind of mentioned earlier, the window's open. Maybe you don't worry about him, but the other guys that, yeah, I mean, Abney's a little smaller for them, but maybe they'd loosen it on day 3. Will Lee, I think, pretty close to a T with that fit. That would make sense. Devin Moore, if they're okay with the injuries, perhaps is a bigger guy there. So there are going to be options for them at this point in time. If you want to address that at 120, you will have that. I think that opportunity. So it's true. And I think, if you want 120 to be Caleb Proctor, I think you might have me all the way back in. So you know what?
You're okay with that as well. You're all right with that as well.
Yeah, if you guys want to do that, be my guest. And edge, obviously, still something that was kind of a little bit of a, and I'm not gonna go too long here because I definitely want to hit on some other stuff before we get out of here to rush. But like edge certainly was a conversation coming in about what they could address. I think a guy that they probably really like is still hanging out there and deny Dennis Sutton. So Eris's thoughts on McClellan pass rush. We will get to all of that when we break him down on the channel here. So we'll get to that. We're going to move on as quickly as possible because I think there's some good stuff to get to. Is there another team caught your eye, or even a specific pick? Okay.
No, you take the floor here.
All right.
I'll give it a little thought. Yeah.
Okay. So this was interesting, I think. The 49ers, to start things off on day 2, Dazon Stribling is the first pick. Oh, yeah, Joshua Joseph's another good shout. Yeah, at edge. Pure speed. Good call. Stribling comes off the board first on Friday. Then they go get Romello Height, which I think understandably change up to their fastball of Bosa and Williams as big guys.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you go younger at that. I don't know. But again, San Francisco.
Window.
I mean, had a good year. Window, not too worried. And then they go Keelan Black. A tradition unlike any other.
Obligatory running back in the third.
Yes. For some reason, in a class that, just didn't really have any. Maybe Jonah Coleman was sitting in your lap, and you could have done that too. But that wouldn't be them, Juice. That's not them. They don't take the guy that's top of the consensus board. They take a guy that's a little bit down, that's expected to go in middle of day 3. They can't be predictable out there, even though they are.
Shanahan knows best. Apparently, he knows.
I just don't. What are we? It's just wild stuff. He's like, well, I got that extra third rounder to play with, so we're going to the running back board right now. Shut everything else down.
Yeah,
just interesting. I think Stribling, is the Juwan replacement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't want to mess around. Didn't think he was going to get to 70, which from everything, all accounts, he wasn't going to.
Right.
So, and he's got that bit of ascending player tab to him, right? Mm-hmm. Had that kind of Matthew Golden-esque finish to a season, kind of culminating in that Georgia effort. That's, I think, what you're looking at, right? Insert block, win the crossers, win some fades down the field, create some explosives that way. Not going to be the most precise guy, but you hope Pearsall is that guy, and Evans can still be that guy. But just interesting. No O-lineman. Not sure I'm totally in on no O-lineman through 3 picks for these guys, but it is what it is.
And I don't think 49ers fans are in on no lineman, because a lot of the chatter that I came across, I wasn't looking for it, but a lot of the chatter I came across was very specific. We need someone to block Byron Murphy. we don't have anyone who can block Byron Murphy.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy is wrecking our entire game plan. We need somebody to counter that, and there's some intriguing names on the board, but I don't know that there's a stopper, a Byron Murphy stopper available at this point.
To be fair,
So,
there might not be many on the planet.
this is my point.
But
This is
also
my
you have,
point.
but you also have to address it. Like you can't just do nothing.
Exactly.
And they did nothing. It would
did
be
nothing.
it would be very them if they just get away with it somehow. Farmer, Bo Stevens, they get one of the centers, and somehow it works. And they're like, "Hey, told you. Look, our day 2 is fine," and they'll somehow get away with it because they seem to do so.
Yeah.
But very strange one. Very strange one.
Lots of trade downs.
Yeah.
I know the Buffalo had a series of trade downs, but moving down and stuff, and that's all fine and well.
Yeah.
But as you're trying to address your deficiencies and find those final pieces to get you over the hump,
Yeah.
right? I don't know that they did a great job. I'm not all the way out on the Stribling pick, albeit it was earlier than I would have liked to. To your point, he wasn't going to be there the next time around.
And they couldn't give up the other third because they needed that to take the running back. So we can't.
Correct.
We can't break tradition.
We can't afford that.
Break tradition.
I don't know. I guess perhaps the size and where you could play. So you had the conversation about Omar Cooper and whether or not he can play outside the numbers, right? Maybe San Francisco didn't feel that way about him. Maybe they didn't view him in that particular capacity, so they moved down. But there's one player that comes to mind. I'm sure there are others, but there's one player that comes to mind. I don't think he's going to be able to block Byron Murphy per se, but I think who could help this team day 3. You mentioned Farmer out of Kentucky. I'm a JC Davis fan. I like the flexibility he offers out of Illinois. They may have him listed as a guard, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
I like JC Davis quite a bit. I think he could
good kick inside candidate. Yeah.
Yes. And play tackle in a pinch for you. But I think he's the type of player that I'd be probably targeting if you're trying to improve that glaring need at guard. He's one that I'd zero in on.
It's a really good shout out, and another big shout out to Drew for dropping a nice little 20 for the and saying Juice is the favorite guest you have on. I would agree.
Appreciate it, Drew.
I would agree. The conversations are always really good, and I think you get exactly what I think the people who kind of probably follow both these channels are looking for. Is you want the no shock jock crazy reactions. You save those for when you're live during and you don't like the picks, but when you can compose yourself afterwards, it's a good spot to be,
Once you can regulate those emotions. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Drew, I really appreciate that. And the continued support. Drew, make sure you're subscribed to Couch Potato General Manager too, if you're not already. Yeah, this was a good one that I was also going to bring up because they just kind of,
I'm with you.
This is nice. This is nice.
I felt like CJ was disrespected.
Just sitting out there, huh? Just didn't really, just didn't feel like it. Everybody else, yeah.
Disrespected my guy, but I couldn't. This is perfect for the Colts. And you can see exactly what's shaping up here, right? Building it through the middle, making sure that you're sound through the middle. They're in really good position here with those pair of 4th round picks to go ahead and address the interior of that defensive line as well. There's some intriguing names at receiver still available to kind of round out that room. So I despite not having that 1st round pick, you get Sauce Gardner, perhaps get him back to playing at a high level. Get his confidence back. I like this. I like this a lot. That's the green dot of green dots right here. In this class is CJ Allen. And
And Ballard said it immediately. That was like the one maybe blurb
Yeah.
non-Green Bay edition that I caught of someone in a press conference tonight. Ballard said, "Yeah, no, green dot immediately.
Yes.
No other thought in our mind when we got
Mm-mm.
him." And it's like,
Mm-mm.
yes,
IQ off the
100%.
charts, off the charts. You're trying to stabilize. You enjoyed Shaq Leonard, you enjoyed Zaire Franklin, and you're trying to mitigate that. And CJ Allen falls into your lap. That's
Yeah.
terrific. And you think about Halsey and where he really thrives, right? He sees it very well in front of him. I know he anticipates, he drives on those throws. So you better be on time and you better look him off. Try to look him off.
Yes.
You got Latu, you got DeForest Buckner, applying pressure. You can still add a Grayson Halton, maybe.
Who Proctor or Halton
You
at
got
113? Hello.
Proctor, right? Now you're
Oof, my
speeding the
goodness.
quarterback up, and then Halsey
Yeah.
is making the play on the back end. So yeah, I like what the Colts did with their 2 picks. I would agree with Drew wholeheartedly.
What does it say they need? Edge? Well, the Dennis Sutton's still out there hanging out as well. If you want to do that,
Yeah,
I
didn't see that one coming. I really didn't see that one coming. I
escaping day 2.
Yeah.
Especially with the testing, because usually that's teams kind of fall for that a little bit, where it just doesn't quite. I don't think he's quite that. I think Penn State does a great job with the training process of the prep for this, but. I think he's a little Gumby-ish when he moves, a little bit out of control. But I mean, the tools are there, and he's big and he's athletic. That if that's not a Ballard pick, I don't know what is.
Yes,
that's why the Josh Downses are shocking when he makes those. Like we're all shocked, right? Because we know the Ballard way is. So
yeah, I agree with your assessment regarding Denai Sutton. I still think, and again, I'm not suggesting that you feel otherwise. He's a top 75, top 80 player, right? So
yeah, it was more so the discussion at 52 that was
perhaps but that might have been a little rich.
Yeah,
maybe a little rich at that point,
for
sure. But yeah, I was surprised he didn't come off the board just yet. And I agree with the notion that he doesn't play to those athletic testing numbers. I don't see the same twitch. Get off that those numbers might suggest, bursts that those numbers would suggest. I have him kind of penciled in as like a 6.5 to 7 sack guy, right?
Yeah,
at his apex. So. But when you're doing that, and you're the secondary pass rusher, tertiary pass rusher on the defensive line, right? And you defend the run like a madman. You set a physical edge.
Yeah,
I can live with that. That's quality. That's
Definitely.
quality. So, as I mentioned, I think there's a good 140, 150 players, right? In this class that will stick around for a while.
Definitely. Maybe a rapid fire. Do we want to try to get to a couple more?
Sure.
And maybe a couple best prospects available. New England, little vegetables. How about that? Lomu, Akis.
I called the Akis.
A blocking. You did. That's right. It's right.
I called the Akis.
There you go.
I think just the nature of how he plays fits very well. You lose Caleb Chason and you want to maintain that because they're ahead of schedule, but they're in their window. They're in the window, right? You got a quarterback on a rookie contract. Oh yeah. That's why you push the chips to the middle of the table. So yeah, I like what they've done there. I didn't do a lot of work on the tight end here. What are your thoughts there?
So I had Max Toscano on last week who talked through a lot of these. He's got him at tight end 1.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So in the 6'5" range, 245. So he's maybe a little bit thinner, right? He doesn't maybe the squattier body type to be an inline player, but some of the reps against Bain, maybe not true wins, but like still mates it long enough to hold your ground. And I think he's really smooth and sharp too. I went back and checked him one more time after he said that he was going to have him pretty much as his top guy. And I was like, I don't know if he's maybe, if Sadiq can hang, right? Because he's so willing, he probably won't pass him, but I liked Reardon a lot more than a lot of the guys who went on that interesting run that began. I think the reason he probably
Yeah,
fell is because he's got the 2 ACLs, right? And so that's probably a little bit of a question. Can you hang
sure,
up? Can you hang in
sure.
this league long enough to make this top 60, 75 pick worth it?
Hmm.
I think it's well worth New England's energy to do that, especially after, just vegetables. Vegetables. Don't eat dessert
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
The Niners kind of ate dessert first two
It's,
nights.
they ate something. They ate
Well,
some kind
that's
of
true.
concoction.
Maybe it's not a true dessert either. Yeah. I know Brandon Hallam was in here. I figured we'd do a solid talk about Houston a little bit. Very similar.
Hmm. Hmm.
Trenches and then a tight end. I knew you knew they were going to get one of those two guys at D
Yeah,
tackle. You knew they were getting one of them.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And it's a bit unfair. I think they could just go ahead and just polish it off with a nice 3 tech to wrap
well,
it, put a bow on it.
maybe
Um,
they got
I
two
thought.
picks. Are they gonna do Keontae
Listen,
Scott and Proctor tomorrow? They gonna do
listen.
both of
I thought
those?
I thought they were gonna get McNeil Warren. I thought it was
I
gonna
know.
happen, Jake. I
I thought
thought
it
it was
was
gonna
too.
happen. I thought it was gonna happen. I think I did not have Keelan Rutledge in the first round, right? In the first 32 picks. I
No,
had
I
him,
thought he was gonna be we're grabbing him at 35,
correct.
and it's gonna
Correct.
be he'll fly off quickly on day
Yeah.
two. But yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
You can, I know that, the fact that McDonald doesn't necessarily give you much in the pass rush at this juncture. It may never come, but I understand when he fell out of the first round, but you can flip those two either way. I think like you said, vegetables,
Yeah.
potatoes, starch, you know what
Yes.
I mean? Stuff that kind of sticks to your ribs, that's a nice start there. Again, the position that I probably did the least work on in this class was the tight end. Any thoughts here on Klein?
I think just pretty standard in line, going to help you out there as
Mm-hmm.
a sixth O lineman. They probably needed, honestly, a sixth O lineman essentially because of where they're at with the O line.
Sure.
So maybe kind of maybe a starch vegetables attached to that.
Yeah.
Maybe would I have
Yeah.
gone Klein at 59?
Uh,
Del
yeah.
Brereton, probably more of
Yeah.
that conversation. Even Kazmarek, who I think is just that dude is a destroyer.
Oh yeah.
By the way,
Yeah. From an inline perspective, yeah, he's the
yeah,
one. He's the
yeah,
one. Hmm.
yeah. Tampa, brother.
Listen,
Jason Light's at it again. I fear he's at it again.
I'm gonna shoot him some bail. He went with Trotter. I understand why he went with Trotter over my guy CJ Allen. I understand
Oh
it.
yeah, that's true.
Yes,
That might
yes,
be the
but
one. That might be the one.
I'll forgive him for that, particularly because he stopped the madness and took Bane.
Yes.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you saw. I don't know if you
Oh,
noticed.
Trevor Sikkema posted it, and I
Oh
retweeted
man,
that sucker.
listen,
He is ticked, and
listen,
everyone should be scared. Everyone should be
listen.
scared. He did the Henry Cavill Mission Impossible, like little punch with the.
I
Oh
don't.
no,
I don't think.
it
I
might
don't
be
think
over.
Bane. I'm not sure Bane has ever combed or cut his hair. I love Ruben Bane. I love his mentality. They've
Yeah,
knocked him because he didn't necessarily have the physical traits. For instance, Days dominating in Dade County. That's why he never got that 5th star, right? It wasn't for a lack of production. He set all kind of rules in South Florida, all kind of records in South Florida, a hotbed for talent.
yeah,
And it's just been one thing after another, right? And of course, the arm length is an outlier, but he's sawed off and he's a problem, man. You can't push him beyond the quarterback. The way he's transformed and his ability to bend, hand usage, you can reduce him down, put him next to
yeah.
Vita Vea,
Oh
him
my
and Cansey
gosh,
from the inside. Listen,
it's gonna be fun.
listen, and then everybody's favorite receiver, in the group of 5, Ted Hurst. You lose Mike Evans, and then of course you don't have to thrust Hurst into
No,
a significant role. You can continue to allow him to develop, because I do think there's some things he needs to work on. But
oh definitely. He claps it. He does
there's
the clapping.
there's a lot of ability. There's a lot of ability.
There
When
is.
I watched him, when I watched him in Mobile. So he had the one highlight reel, right? He,
Oh
goes
yeah,
vertical, goes up, one hand
yeah,
grab,
yep.
and then he was pretty quiet for the rest of So the level of competition, I think, impacted him. I think it impacted him in Mobile. So I think it's just going to take a little time. So, but he's in a position where you can exercise some patience with him.
Oh,
So yeah,
absolutely.
I think Jason Light is doing a good job here. Albeit CJ Allen slight, but
Yeah,
I'll
that's
forgive
a
him.
that's a fair one, I think, for sure. Yeah, I think they'd be in conversation. Yeah, if it was CJ Allen, I think they're on Dallas's heels
Yeah.
after it tonight. And again, I think they have some O-line things they can go check. But again,
Hmm.
tomorrow's going to have some options for you, especially a
Yep.
guard. If you really need the guard, like you're
Yeah.
going to have some options. You talked about J.C. Davis. We talked Bo Stevens, the Kentucky guys. Right, there's going to be some. Billy Schrouth is a favorite of some at
Hmm.
Notre
I
Dame.
like Billy Strauss. I like Billy
Micah
Strauss.
Morris
Yeah.
from Georgia.
Mm.
We've been a lot of talk because the athletic testing was really good, and obviously has some of that battle tested experience in the SEC. Going
Hmm.
to be some options. They have 5 picks tomorrow.
Yeah.
They can still clean up really nicely. I did have one more, and now I did want to check in on our buddies from Packers South here, who they did take Rodriguez over Allen. And the Caleb
I
Douglas
can live
one
with
was
it.
a surprising one, a little more surprising there.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
imagine if this was Ted Hurst and Chris Bell.
There were several receivers
Oh,
selected in the
Xavier
third.
Thomas.
Yeah, there were a few. Like I was like,
Yeah.
really?
Well,
Really?
Xavier, they want their Khalif Raymond.
Sure.
That's it.
Sure.
That's
Sure.
literally it.
That's what they're looking for.
I hope it's not
Yeah.
a Velas Jones. Well, I do hope I do, but I hope it's a Velas Jones. But I hope for Xavier's sake that he's able to just. I mean, it's not going to be a big role, but yeah, there were some weird ones, Douglas included. Like, I don't think it's. There was a lot of people like, who is this? But like big dude who can, I think, vertical plane stuff. He does a lot of throw by stuff with a lot of the DBs, so it's
Size.
okay. It's a size thing,
Yeah,
for sure.
it's the
This is
size.
green. It's a Green Bay South, of course.
Yeah.
Look who took the first round, Caden Proctor.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
for sure. But Hurst was sitting there. Could have done
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah. His running mate, his name's escaping me right now.
Oh
Virgil.
yeah, Reggie
Reggie
Virgil.
Virgil.
Yep.
Reggie Virgil, is arguably right in that same conversation.
Yeah.
Different body type. He wins differently.
Sure.
Virgil has a better release package and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was a little early on Caleb Douglas. I get it with Proctor. I get it. I just can't abide by Miami passing up downs and Bain. I can't abide by it.
Oh no, I
can't.
think that's extremely fair.
I don't like it.
They kind of almost got a lineman in the third. Honestly, it's almost a lineman. It's really close.
Merrick.
So I guess that works. But I also Proctor over Miller, and I mean this is
Even
I get it. Proctor's
even if you're hell bent on tackle, right?
yeah. I get it. Right. This is you're in
Guard
the
to tackle.
extreme rebuilding window, right? You want to take the 600-foot home run type of swing and see if Proctor, the big recruit, can figure it out for sure. Ihonachor was there too, sitting around. If you wanted to maybe try that, the developmental thing, and he doesn't have to move positions. He just slides right in, and you see how the development goes. So yeah, that was kind of we talked about that one last night for sure.
Yeah.
Like I've seen that before. Miami fans, welcome to the show of man. When I step to the plate for the first time, I am swinging as hard as I've ever swung before. Shout out to Gary Van Ness, all the hitters out there in the past, even Jordan Love, Stokes, all the big swings, man. They've done it so much. Quay Walker, massive one, just a big cut at the plate. Like they're going to do it. The tree is alive. We were wondering if they were going to be similar. They look pretty similar. Trying to get their Edge Cooper at 43. Trying to get their Edge Cooper.
Yeah,
it looks.
I love the Rodriguez pick. Rodriguez pick, even in the face of CJ Allen because of that ball production, right? That playmaking ability. I was wondering when they would address it because they have a couple incumbents there who rack up the tackles. But
Yeah.
are you creating offense via defense? Are you making those type of plays? And not really, not truly. The veterans there, Dotson and
Jordan
what's his
Brooks.
name? Jordan Brooks. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, but that room is nice and stacked for sure, Drew.
Yep.
It's stacked. I know
It
Chris
is
Johnson
maybe
is.
it is maybe weird because Rodriguez is 24
Hmm.
and you got the young Trotter and Allen kind of sitting out there, and
Hmm.
we've had that discussion, so I think it's probably worth bringing up of like, that might be a second contract guy then, and you hope he's really that guy when you hopefully enter the window, I guess, is maybe the thought
Yeah,
process.
I,
But
I,
again, the ball
I,
production, like you said, is tremendous. It's
I'm not sure. I'm not sure with the decision that they made. I'm not sure if both Brooks and Dodson are back.
I think
I
that's
think I
probably
think
true. Yeah.
one may be moving on,
Yeah.
right? Whether it
Deadline or
results in a
earlier. Yeah,
post six
for sure.
one, whatever, or a trade in season. I
Yeah.
don't know that both will be playing for the Dolphins through the balance of 2026.
Yeah.
But the Chris Bell situation, man, he just kept sliding. I felt myself saying his name so much during the stream. I was like,
Yeah, same.
shut up about Chris Bell. But apparently there
It's
was a lot
true.
of concern about his recovery over that injury, right?
Yeah.
It worked out well for the Dolphins though, because you are in the midst of the rebuild.
Yeah.
There's
Don't
no
have to
need to
see him
rush
this
him.
year if you don't need to. Yeah.
We don't need to
100%.
rush him. He's unique in this class considering the size speed element that he represents. You can catch lightning in a bottle here. You know what I mean? You have a lot of picks, so you have a lot of opportunities to kind of throw it up against the wall, see if it sticks. Literally in the case of Caden Proctor. But yes, in the case of Chris Bell, whom I thought he had a pretty significant range of outcomes considering he's coming off the injury. You could see him, early day two, and ultimately he goes very late day
Yeah.
two. So yeah.
Yeah. I think it's again, yeah, if they had done the Hurst or the maybe even even if they looked at Brazel, if they wanted to do that, they could have. But they are still, as Drew points out, they are still loaded for bear tomorrow. 2 4s, 3 5s, 2 7s.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to work with tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We keep bringing up the same players, but I mean the Proctors, the Coltons, like you can go get some
Law of
bursts if you want
averages.
some.
Law
Go
of
get some if you want
averages.
some. Like and safeties. I know VJ Payne is a really interesting player tomorrow from Kansas State about like maybe safety, maybe corner at 6'3". Maybe you want to move him over. There's some talk about that. Like they're going to have options in the defensive back room tomorrow as well. If they
I
want
like
to go that
Kilgore.
direction.
I
And
don't
that's
know
a
if he's
good
going to be
one
that
too.
130, but Kilgore's a good one for
It's
this
a really
team.
good one. Yep.
I think Kilgore makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Let's see how they finish here, because they certainly have the ammunition. They have plenty of picks. I don't dislike the players.
Yeah.
What I take issue with is who they selected, considering who else was on the board. Right? I do
Yeah.
think it was a bit early for Caleb Douglas, but you flip Caleb Douglas and Chris Bell, you
Looks
know what I
better.
mean?
Sure. Yep.
That looks better. I mean, you got to get a tight end, right? You got to get one, and you got the best blocking tight end in the class for all intents and
Yeah.
purposes. Um,
Yeah.
like a
New
lot of
Jersey
reaches, Boomer
Fids
Bust
fan, I got to
Field.
read this one.
Yeah.
As a Fids fan, draft feels like a lot of reaches, boomer bust feel, which is tough for a new GM. I would love to welcome you to the Packers School of Thought with some boomer bust potential. I'd love to welcome you all. It has worked out plenty for the Packers when they've been swinging. You're just going to have to get used to some of these like massive swings for upside that they do. And that's really what the Proctor pick is. It's what it is. Douglas was interesting because, I don't know if there's like a ceiling feel to it, but
Sure.
maybe you're commenting feeling like Chris Johnson was also one. Entirely possible. I get that, right? Obviously, the Tennessee guy's still there. little more battle tested. Ponds as well, right? But again, this is Packers South. Are we going near Ponds? Look at these guys. These guys are big. This is a big group here across the board. So
I'm okay with the Chris Johnson pick, right? I'm okay with
yeah,
that one. I didn't think he was gonna. I thought anywhere. I thought he was certainly going in the first 40.
sure. Oh yeah,
Um,
oh yeah.
yeah. So the fact that they zeroed in on him is fine. I think we talked about it a little bit on Wednesday. The one thing that I question about him, because what he does well are things that you can't teach, right? Like he has
Yeah,
good size, prototypical size, right? He can
for
run.
sure.
He can find the football. He actually, at the moment of truth, he doesn't panic. He can find the football. I think the one thing he's missing, right? And perhaps this is why, folks may be on the fence a little bit about him being, a first round selection going ahead of Colton Hood, for example, is there. And DJ mentioned it. He said, physicality. He's a willing tackler, but I
Yeah.
need him to be physical in his press.
Yes,
He
100%. He likes to match. Yeah,
he likes to match. And I'm thinking to
Yeah,
myself, man, listen, if you disrupt the receiver a little bit with those hips, that technique,
yeah,
that speed, and those ball skills, I mean, that's tough. That's going to be tough on
yeah.
receivers. But when you give free access like that, especially to receivers at this level, at the NFL level, you're asking for trouble. You're
Yeah,
asking for trouble. Like
for
I
sure.
mean, you got a handful of guys who can pull that off. Denzel
Yeah.
Ward, comes to mind. But I mean, even the good ones get beat. So it behooves you. It behooves you
Oh,
to challenge the receivers at the line of scrimmage. A lot of those guys don't want to be physical to begin with. There are a handful that
yeah.
you probably should back off from, but most of them don't want to be disrupted. They don't want to have to figure out how to get off
Oh, for
a line
sure.
of scrimmage. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It just, Chris Johnson, if you want to study some Leonard Moore film from last year about a guy who just will take it to everybody. But I think, as you said, I think he has all the ingredients. I was really pleased that I knew Green Bay wasn't going to have a chance. I was like, Green Bay South, I hope they get him. And they moved up. And that was cool last night to see him
yeah.
be their pick there. I think he's probably my favorite of those out there. I think Rodriguez is a close second. Love the Bell one, of course. And obviously they're not done. They got a lot. They got a lot going on tomorrow
Yes, they
that
do.
they can address. Maybe we just hit a couple questions here before we
Sure.
get out. And for those watching, I've been checking the just the numbers. I was just peeking at it on YouTube Studio on my phone. A lot of people have been in and out tonight. Like this is the
Nice.
biggest thing we've had in a while here. So make sure you're
Nice.
following the link I commented as well. You sub there too if you aren't already, because this is the type of content you get, I think, for both channels. So make sure this is a co-stream. Make sure you follow there. I put that link in the description too for everybody on the way out. Just want to get that out there since I was shocked when I looked. So yeah, make sure you're subbed both places. I'm trying to think if there's something else that I was. Oh, yes, there was. There was one more thing before we get to best players and we answer the question about linebackers. Okay, so these guys had a lot of picks to work with, and then they moved 105, 145 in a fourth next year to go get Malachi Fields.
They
Juice,
really
is
like
this
Malachi
is this
Fields.
not the Isaac Tesla trade again? It's the
It
same
looks
thing.
that way. It looks that
And
way.
I'm like, ay. Get more swings at the plate. You took him like 20 picks before Bell.
yeah. Yeah.
I just we're falling for the circus catches a little bit.
Yes.
Which I get it. If you want to if there's like 9 times a year where Dart says, he's down there somewhere and he makes the play, that's awesome. That's so cool. You're gonna love the highlight plays. This is like Tesla again. Tesla's made like 3 great catches last year. And like he had I think he had 10 catches all year. Like it feels very similar to me. Now, I think Fields is okay on the vertical plane as a receiver. I just don't think I'd be giving up 3 picks in a rebuilding mode here to go get a specific guy like this. If I'm going to get a guy like this, I'm swinging way harder than this. Give me
Yes.
Hurst, give me Bell, right?
Sure.
Give me a falling edge rusher or an
Yep.
offensive lineman. If you really liked an offensive lineman, I have no problem going to get an offensive lineman. You still need some of that tomorrow, right? But you kind of cleared your cupboard out early tomorrow to go make this happen. And I don't know. I mean, Skylar Bell, Surratt, I know Lance isn't as polished, so I understand, maybe you didn't want to go that direction as a bigger guy, but like, I don't know. I just feel like they just did a lot of lifting, and they were like, if the Detroit can do this, so can we, type of thing. Like, God, we can do this too. It's like, well, Tesla didn't play much, so I don't know. Just that one fell in the realm of just strange moves for me. Of like when I saw that they moved basically heaven and earth, I'm like, okay, well who do they love? And then they picked, and I'm like, I don't think we had to do that.
Yeah, it was steep. It was steep, and I don't think Fields ran well enough to kind of prompt that type of climb. Albeit it looked like a handful of teams there in the third were just picking their guy at receiver, players that I did not anticipate going day two. I didn't think Fields was going to get out of day two. That being said, though, so while I don't necessarily agree with the package that was required to get him, I do think, particularly considering how he played in the Senior Bowl, because he showed me something I didn't really know he had. He was really routing guys up. His release package looked like, oh, this does not look like the player I've been watching on film at all. There were just elements that I wasn't necessarily familiar with that he demonstrated. And I think that moved the needle for some organizations, right? Even when he didn't test great, and I didn't expect him to, blow the combine up or anything like that. I'm not a huge proponent of that. I would rather focus on the film, and then of course, if somebody comes out of left field with great testing, then see if that matches what he does on the field. But I thought in Mobile, he showed a little bit more looseness in his hips. He wasn't as rigid. He created separation. He made plays at every level of the field. So I think the process ultimately, especially when, that's the last time these guys are actually playing football, they're actually playing the sport as opposed to running around in, t-shirt shorts. I think that helped, but definitely steep considering some of the names that are available. And like you said, if I'm going to swing, I'm swinging Chris Bell. I'm swinging for the fences. Yes.
Yeah,
it's going to be a hard cut.
Yeah. Like to me, that's, I think, the biggest part of it is just like, quite simply, I just didn't like who we're swinging for in that moment. Like, I get that. Again, I'm trying to remember. I think Brazel went a little later. Like, I get it.
Yes, he did.
If you didn't want to do that and you had the off-field stuff, there were some things he's been cited for, and you were a little concerned maybe about that. Okay, that's fine. I just think, to me, Hurst.
I'd wait on Lance. Hurst
was available. I thought they were doing it. I really did at 74 when they moved up there. I'm like, oh yeah, they're swinging for Hurst. Like, this is gosh, Ted Hurst and Malik Neighbors. Gosh, I might go to a game. Like, I just
I'll tell you, Fields soundly outplayed Hurst in Mobile.
I think that's
outplayed
fair.
him.
For sure.
And I think it's kind of that lasting impression. I think there's a lasting impression that happens, right? So it really is incumbent upon the front office to revisit things and reconfirm, revalidate those types of things and be able to make perhaps a better informed decision. But he punctuated things in Mobile, whereas, like I said, Hurst had the one big grab, one kind of highlight reel catch, and was pretty quiet for the rest of the week. So that may have had something to do with it. And then, of course, you have these organizations that place a premium on the helmet. So you shouldn't scout it.
It's a pretty famous one.
But exactly. That gold dome carries a certain amount of weight, even though,
There have been a lot of Notre Dame receivers taken in the third round. We don't remember them because I think it's a similar thing. Kevin Austin. I'm gonna trying to go to
Claypool.
Oh man. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's just, it does seem to be like they're like, well, he's big and he's playing for Notre Dame. Yeah, Please sign me up.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know.
Right.
Anyone else? We should get to this question, and maybe
Sure.
that's the way
Yeah.
to finish it out here. From Steven, who's definitely been chilling here all night for sure, as a 2-hour
Shout out
show
to you,
has
Steven.
commenced. So he was in here early talking about the Cowboys. So yeah, says what linebackers available are your favorites remaining? Says Cowboys fan interested. Elliott, Armzor, Rolder, Kyle Lewis, and I'm familiar. Kyle Lewis I'm familiar with, and love. Juice, I'll let you go first if you got a player in mind.
I got some exposure to Elam's Or while I was in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. I'll plug that video. I did a all first and second team video on the players at Mobile. So the players that I really thought stood out, fairly comprehensive. You probably won't find anything quite as comprehensive in a single video for the Senior Bowl. So I recommend checking that out on the channel.
Definitely do that.
I did not put out a lot of content this particular draft cycle, so it'll be pretty easy to find it. But it's a pretty good one. It's pretty, like I said, comprehensive. Elam's Or stood out to me. He stood out to me. His decisiveness, his speed, it jumped off the page, and that's a player that I'm intrigued by. I don't know anybody who doesn't love Kyle Louis.
I think it's pretty universal.
I've yet to encounter anyone who's met Kyle Louis. Now, there is a question as Dallas moves to their 34 base. Can Louis hold up there as a effectively de facto inside linebacker? I think ideally he's a weak side in a 4-3 alignment, and of course you can stay in your base with him because he's so excellent in coverage, right? And I have to say this: the most impressive coverage I saw, and Jacob Rodriguez was there too, and he had a great week as well. The most impressive coverage I've ever seen from a linebacker in one-on-ones in Mobile, right? It was reminiscent of Quinyon Mitchell in Mobile. Just utter dominance.
Knew what everyone was doing. Yeah, just ran
the routes for everybody.
Yep.
Ran the routes for everybody.
Did it at Pitt too. Yeah. It's so impressive. It's really impressive.
If you can get past the weight, and my thought process is, if I'm Dallas and I say, you know what, we're gonna go with Kyle Louis. We're gonna augment our pass defense with him, and not be completely over leveraged in terms of the run defense, because he does a great job of slipping blocks and finding the ball carrier. I want him to get up to the 230 range. He's right now he's 220. If he can get up to the 230 range, he doesn't lose that flexibility, that quickness, that ability to flip his hips, find the football in the passing game. I would do it. And you don't have to have him at 230 this year. He can develop into it, right? Get a full off season in your program and work his way up, put on some good weight. I would roll the dice. Yes. I think everybody wish he would be bigger. I think if he moved like that and he was bigger, it's another Pons discussion. It is. It's
exactly. Like, well, he's gone already. We're not talking about it. We're talking about the team he went to. Yeah. It is that for sure.
Yeah. Bryce Bottichar, I see a comment.
Yes.
I'm intrigued by him. He probably fits more in terms of the physical profile. He probably fits a little bit more. He's not huge, but just the way he plays. Physical inside linebacking presence there. But yeah, Elam's Or stood out to me. He stood out to me in Mobile. I think he's intriguing.
Yeah. And he could be a nickel, big nickel maybe, but again, more just a really fluid, recognize everything nickel player.
Yes.
No question. You mentioned Armzor. I won't go that direction. I think that's a good one. Yeah, Keyshawn Elliott. I know, Stephen, you put that in the question. Downhill thumper type, gonna just wreak havoc between the tackles if you want that type. And Lewis is the other end of the spectrum, right? The guy who's going to be further away from that true spine and operating in a lot of coverage looks and chasing and doing all that. And then Red Murdoch.
Ooh,
Buffalo.
good one. I like
Gotta bring him up for tomorrow for sure. We
Yeah.
got to make sure, because you do mention a couple others, right? Rolder, I think, is a good one, but you kind of mentioned him. We don't have to. But Red Murdoch was not on that in the question, so I figured it's a
Buffalo.
good way to go there, right? He's a little bit shorter, but has the frame and the build to get in the collision work, do all that stuff, and sift through the trash, and then take on blocks and do all of that stuff. And still, 22 years old player, like there's room to grow with a lot of his game, and making that jump, obviously from Buffalo to the league is going to be maybe a bigger jump. Unless he, I feel like if he was on the level of Khalil Mack, he'd probably be gone already too, right? That's the type of thing.
Sure.
So, but again,
Sure.
smaller school, who did exactly what he needed to do, right?
He
The
dominated,
box
though.
check, yeah, exactly.
He dominated.
Check that
And-
box for me and
Yes.
crush everyone in front of you. Does
Yes.
it? He shouldn't have to wait. I don't think he should have to wait long tomorrow. It should be a linebacker run, as kind of you mentioned, Steven, in the question. It's a plethora of guys of really any flavor you want. Aiden Fisher, right, was really good in that Indiana scheme. Kind of just did the job, did it the right way. So there just really are a lot of names. Jack Kelly's big enough, 240.
He is.
Carrying it at BYU. Like, if you want the bigger guy, you want the Kyle Louis that's a little bit maybe more turbocharged, maybe less recognition, but more turbocharged than Torian York. Like, you can go that direction too. There are a lot of linebackers still available in what I think is a really good class. And I think teams just kind of said, we'll stay on pat. We'll wait for the run to go, and we'll start taking our guys then. So,
Yeah.
Final wrap-up question: is there any other player specifically tomorrow where you're like, I can't wait to see where he lands?
I want to see
we
where the
didn't.
slot demon lands. Oh, we mentioned him.
Sure,
we
but
mentioned
that's
him,
still a
but
good.
I
That's
kinda-
still a good answer.
I want to see where Keontae Scott ultimately lands. I think there's an infectious energy that he brings to the defense. You got to have a plan for him, because he has some things to work through in terms of going backwards, but moving forward, he's a problem. He's a menace. Early in his career, they played him on the boundary, and it just wasn't a good fit. Right? He doesn't play with the type of technique necessary to hold up on the boundary. But really, really interested to see where he goes. Who else comes to mind? The Cyrus Allen. I'd like to see where Cyrus Allen
That's a good one.
lands as well. A lot of production. He was nails at Mobile as well. So interesting to kind of see where he fits in. Kilgore, of course. There's several. And then Jonah Coleman. We haven't talked a lot
great
about
one.
the offense.
Great one.
Jonah Coleman, I'm fairly high on. I've been a fan of his since the days at Arizona. So he and another back that I like. Jack of all trades, maybe a master of none. But I liked more than like Kalen Black, Jamari Taylor out of Virginia.
Yeah.
I think in a class where you don't have a ton of ball carriers that really move the needle. I just think that he is a coach's dream, right? He's gonna make the right read. He's gonna create a little on his own. You can trust him in pass pro. He catches the football well out of the backfield. Teams like the Vikings who need another back to pair with the older Aaron Jones, those types of teams. I would look for those guys here in day 3 as well.
Yeah, those are great additions. Glad you got Jonah Coleman in there, because I think that's a really good one. I can't wait to see where combine champion Brendan Thompson lands tomorrow. 5'9" to like 164 or something like that.
Caldwell out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, another good one too. Like, Thompson tracks it really well too down the field, like the over the shoulder. I've ran past everyone. I excited to see what happens there. Jude Bowery, another one that in the tackle class that I think has it's to me a little bit. It's a very diet version, but very much has, like, I think all of the tools like a Tyler Smith had coming out of Tulsa, right? Where it just feels like all the tools are there, and we just got to get just any level of consistency with striking and hitting a landmark where we think the tools are good, but it's playing the position. We get 2 to 3 years. We get to kind of work through this and see what we can get on the other side. Like he intrigues me a lot at that position. And again, it's going to be a developmental thing. It's not, maybe the Keontae Scotts and the Colemans where it's like, yeah, they're probably going to get a chance to start. But I do think he is somebody who makes my list. And the last one, of course, for those who follow a long time, we already know Eli Heidenreich. Where's he going tomorrow? Where's the Swiss going?
Right.
Where's he going tomorrow out of Navy? Can't wait to find out.
Yeah. I do you think Bowery sticks at tackle?
I would at least try it, but I think there is credence to saying let's try this instead. Which hey, to those teams like NJ Finn's here, you looking for guards, tackle the guard. Green Bay, that's what they love to do. Maybe show up if they're going to go that direction again tomorrow, and the Packer fans already know that might be a thing as well. What teams had top drafts for us? I think we'll rattle them off quick. I'll rattle them off quick for you. We talked about Dallas at the top, really, really good. Cleveland, I think, is the process at the very least, if you didn't like the players. I think I came around, I guess. I think Juice was still in on the Jets the whole way. I came around, I think, a little bit as we talked through it. Teams who ate the vegetables, I mean, it was like Houston, the Patriots was a pretty safe one. Look up and down. We didn't even go to our the team who always joins the party as like, we crush in these things as the Ravens, but with Venga, Zion, Young, and Lane. I actually think there's one more. New Orleans Saints. Jordan Tyson, Christian Miller, Oscar Delp.
Quietly. Yes. Yes, very much.
Caught maybe the highest upside potential inline tight end at the end of the run. Got Miller. And then, and then obviously led Tyson at the top. Like, this is very much as you said, just way, way under the radar. I will say last night I might have, on the reaction show, said I'm all in. Saints win the division. I'm going to call it by multiple games. That might have, again, another early call. I might have to take a mea culpa for that one because how Jason Light responds. Put some pressure on Jason Light last night, apparently. And he said, no, I'll stretch and I'll get ready to roll today. But this is, this is really nice. And if you want
receiver
DBs,
one for me,
you got options tomorrow. Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
receiver one for me. Albeit, that the injury concerns are legitimate. There's a pretty extensive list of soft tissue on top of things. Those things tend to linger, but from a talent perspective, and I'm a big Christian Miller fan. I can't quit Christian Miller. I'm a big fan of his. So, and it didn't necessarily materialize at Georgia. That the thought process when he transferred with Delp, but I certainly understand the allure because he has the tools. And you've seen some of the flashes. Yeah.
I think it's really, really just steady across the board guys who I think can, again, tight end is a position where it takes some time. So it might not be, tomorrow, might not be September for Oscar.
They got Juwan Johnson,
but
they have Juwan Johnson there still, but
their quarterback is, well, he's not young, I guess, but he is developing, I guess is the way to put it.
Quarterback age.
If he hangs around long enough, it'll be fine. Right. But, I do think the Saints, we didn't mention, and I feel like as I was going through tonight, as the picks were coming in, I'm like, they kind of just quietly, they let it come to them. And they took advantage, and not every team, I don't think, did that. So, well, Juice, this has been excellent. I feel like we could probably go for another 2 hours on the rest of the teams if we wanted to. I felt a level of energy coming in, and that this is why we do these. So, if you're in here one more time, I'm going to post this one more time here. Make sure you're subbed here as well to CPGM NFL Draft on YouTube. I think we're both really excited about, finishing up this cycle, but I think 2027 jumping right in, and I think it'll make it the best cycle yet. So if you love the draft, which if you're in here, I mean, watching a recap show and you're on the East Coast and it's 2 a.m. and you're on the, if you're
Right.
Central Time, it's 1 a.m. I think you like it because you're sitting here
Yes.
doing it, right? And a lot of people
Yes.
did. So yeah, hit the thumbs up if you can. If you're watching either stream, make sure you do that. But also remember, sub to both. Get some rest, people. Tomorrow is a marathon, not a sprint. And we'll see. I know, Drew, you asked what time live tomorrow. Not sure yet. It could be at conclusion. I might wait till Sunday to kind of get some rest. We'll see. But I will at the very least post with a little post on YouTube and make sure everybody knows. But thank you all. I was going to try to thank everybody, but there were a lot of people in here. The regulars know I thank you all the time. Steven had brought a lot of great questions. It was cool to see Miami fans in here, Dallas fan, all of that. And Drew, obviously, with the dono, one more shout out there. But thank you guys again so much. Enjoy it. One more day. That's all we get. And it comes and goes really quickly, but we appreciate all of your time, watching, because we can't do it without you guys. But yeah, thank you guys. Juice, anything to plug before we get out of here really quick?
No, man.
I almost just sent it
listen,
and just
listen. You're okay, man. It's late. It's late. I mean, I
Just
appreciate
let it
you having
go.
me on, and this was my first time doing the dual stream, right? So I imagine there'll be more of this in our future. So
I think so.
looking forward to that. Obviously getting a sense to interact with some of your audience here was really cool. I appreciate everybody tuning in and hanging with us, man. So guys, have a great weekend.
Yeah, take care, everybody. Thank you all the new people as well. I hope you stick around. But take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the draft.